It's TCP O'Clock, episode 264. The show where we talk about Overwatch. You know what? I was not even going to be snarky about it. There's a lot to get through today, and a lot of things to be excited about, but also a lot of things to if you've been on the internet lately, it's just I hate it here. I really hate it here. I really hate the internet. And especially, I think I just hate the people on the internet. I'll get into what that means in a moment. So I found out today that r/games hates us, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. They absolutely hate us.
That's cool.
I want to say us, I don't mean TCP. They love us. They hate Overwatch. So, I don't know.
What are you going to do?
A lot of misinformation being spread around. I enjoyed the person in the r/games thread about the Overwatch release trailer, which, by the way, the launch trailer was pretty cool to watch. It was really awesome. Some new footage of Carrico gameplay, as well as Portugal, the new map as well, Esperanza, that has been announced, but no one's obviously played it yet. So some early footage of that. And someone in the comments is like, "Oh yeah, don't forget, free-to-play players have to unlock all the Overwatch 1 heroes again, over 100 games." And someone replied, "It's like, that's actually not true. That's only for new players." And this person's like, "New players are free to play. What's the misunderstanding?" It's like, yeah, okay, dude, it's very nice. You gotta spread misinformation, get called out for it, and then double down on spreading misinformation. I do love the internet sometimes, guys. I really thoroughly enjoy being a member of the internet. That's how we're gonna start the show today. Just, I don't know, man. I'm at my limit of the internet. I should get off the internet. I'm actually gonna leave right now. Goodbye.
Yeah. Now imagine that this interaction was actually a very vital mechanism towards your career's success. Could you imagine what kind of feedback loop would take hold of your soul? To be like, I could write this sensible article about a topic I really care about, and I think people should really care about, and maybe has something to do with charity, or it has something to do with people being earnestly taken advantage of by forces in power, but I could also write some bullshit and get some sick clicks, dude. Which brings me to the point of saying Google AdSense is a great filter event, and it will kill us all.
Speaking of Google, we haven't even dived into the topic yet. I'm just currently, this is my opening rant. So if you're not here for an AVRL rant today, this might not be the episode for you. I don't know. I'm actually going to keep it pretty. No, I'm not. I'm not going to keep it reasonable. I'm going to go off. No, I mean, I've already gone off on Twitter. Who cares? The point is, if you think Blizzard is going to sell your information because you gave them your phone number, first of all, if you have a fucking phone to even give Blizzard your phone number in the first place, your information is already fucking out there. Right? If you've ever used Google, they've already tracked your location from day fucking one. Okay? If you've ever used Google Maps, if you've done anything on the internet, they already got your shit. If the NSA want to track you down and fucking divulge into your private shit, they don't need Blizzard's permission to do that. They don't need any help from Blizzard to do that. So any dumb motherfuckers out there that are like, "Oh man, I wouldn't want Blizzard to sell my information." Bro, it's too late for that. Yeah. That ship sailed a long fucking time ago. You should have thought about that before you bought a fucking phone. Right? If you used a phone, it's too fucking late.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's not about personal responsibility at this time. If you give someone your telephone number and they put you in their Google account contacts, Google now has your number, right? Technically speaking. So and it's really easy to be cross-verified in terms of someone has your number, and that some of the people that have your number also have their contacts uploaded to Google in order to be easier switch from one device to the other. All the shit is out there. Let's be honest.
People are just so naive. I love it. It's like, if you ask Edward Snowden, in what way could I be completely safe on the internet? He'd tell you can't. you'd have to throw your phone away and never use the internet. That's how you stay safe on the internet. You fucking don't use the internet.
It's so weird when like everything that happens in Overwatch just becomes like the stage of like major societal discussions. Like,
oh yeah, why is Overwatch the vehicle for that? Like, what the fuck?
It's so wait, well, yeah, but anti-consumerism and like loot boxes and like you have to grind and predatory systems and children, and it's like.
Also, these people only come out of the woodwork. These people only come out of the woodwork for Overwatch too. Oh, you notice they never say anything about other games doing this. You know, yeah, they never say anything. Oh, fuck me! If Blizzard do it, if Overwatch do it, oh shit, that's
Look, here's
DEFCON 5 apparently.
Here's actually I'll give you a different mode to think about this, right? So there's a concept called multipolarity traps, which basically means like once one actor in a market position goes to a length and finds something that is fit, but maybe that not that morally clean, like everyone will have to follow suit or get very close in order to stay competitive or see themselves, ejected from the market. Now, from what we know, all of the systems in the Overwatch Battle Pass, including like how you unlock heroes, the progression system, the Battle Pass itself, is actually a little bit better. So in a market system, if you can stay competitive while doing it a little bit better in terms of the moral consideration, you're already contributing probably like as much as you reasonably can be expected to. It's unfortunately, like I hate that this is the case, but I think those incremental improvements are as good as you're going to get, because you know how much better you have to be at stuff while like not sticking to your absolute like moral understanding. No, everyone has to give way in some way. Either your creative identity needs to move away. Like this is, if you don't understand this, you probably have not worked in a profession on the internet in any capacity. It's unfortunately the case. You have to adjust.
Holy shit! Joe's eyes just moved. I thought his camera froze, but he's actually there.
No. I'm here.
Okay. Still, he stayed so frozen. I thought he was invisible.
Joe doesn't care.
Drax below me.
Joe doesn't care. That news hasn't made it to Wrath of the Lich King, so there's no bother in the world.
I mean, when you're right, you're right. No, I agree. There's not much you can do. Try to stay safe on the internet, guys.
No, it's too late.
Blizzard already has everything you've ever said, ever done, and ever will do in their clutches. There's really not much we can do. And if anything, this is probably going to prevent, not to completely get ahead of things, but this is going to prevent, or hopefully get in the way of targeted harassment and
no, Joe, you don't understand.
Really shitty people.
What does targeted harassment mean? Why does that matter when Blizzard's going to sell my information to the NSA? You don't get it. You clearly don't get it, Joe. I don't think you understand.
I'm being incredibly myopic
of this situation. Because clearly the public is concerned about the sale of their data, which is about the most naive thing I've ever heard in my fucking life.
The thing is,
these days it's a little too far gone, I would say.
Explain to me what this is about the no prepaid cards, because I think that might actually be also a problem from my position, because I'm not sure how it is in the US, but like here there's a decent chunk, especially children, who have prepaid phones or prepaid phone contracts. So I think that might be prohibitive. I understand why you might want to do it in order to not, you want to shut down
to like
cheating
link
and whatever.
Gotcha.
All right, let's start the episode before this introduction becomes a 2-hour intro.
Sure. Yeah.
And then you know what? When we start the episode, I'm gonna just dive into a different topic altogether, so we can just to make it really difficult for people to listen on purpose. Excuse me. 264 brought to you by Avila Vista Baby, Battlecrab, Refine Bean, Bronzebot Buhau, Picasso, Chris R34444, Casher 67, Lolshin, Porkchop, Sammy, Rexay, Volamel, Smooth Nuts with the YouTube members, I Sam Jello, William Jesse, Wishman, Fileman 6, AK, and Chris R. So what the hell are we been talking about? With no context, just
The
out the gate,
verification
started blasting.
method.
I'm on the western frontier. I'm a rebel. I'm a cowboy, and I just busted down those like what are those like those doors into the end? You know, the ones that just fling open. I busted that shit down. I just started firing. I just started popping shots off. That's what I did in this episode. Just no context. Just started firing shots. This is what we're talking about. So a couple important announcements just came in over the past few days, even about some of the new systems in place going into Overwatch 2 launch, and the main ones that we're going to be actually we're going to cover all of them, but what they are is the competitive play update for Ranked 2.0, which we'll get to, but more importantly, the thing that really has people's panties in a twist, and you know what, when people's panties get in a twist, it twists my panties. My panties only twist when other people's twist. I twist my panties in response to others' panties being twisted. There's a lot of twisting going on, and a lot of underwear being spoken of. What do I mean by this? This what is this system? Defense Matrix is what they're calling it. The Defense Matrix Initiative, fortifying gameplay integrity and positivity in Overwatch 2. Now, there's two important things in here. There's two main parts of this that need to be focused on. I implore you all to go and check that blog post out on the on playoverwatch.com in the news tab if you want to dive into it and really get in the nitty-gritty of it. But there's again only two really important things that we want to talk about. Number one, since we're kind of already on it, is SMS Protect. So I think most people know by now that you have to link a phone number to your Battle.net account in order to access Overwatch 2. So SMS Protect is, they describe it as the additional layer of security to combat cheating and disruptive behavior, protecting your Overwatch 2 experience from bad actors. So essentially, people can't just easily make brand new Overwatch 2 accounts and either harass you in game or cheat or be disruptive or etc. or smurf or just even smurf. Really, just that's part of it too. And let me just check if I've missed any sort of information here. And the part that Yiska is talking about is the specific details and fine print about like what you can and can't use. So let's just go over it. Players across all platforms, including consoles, are required to have a phone number attached to their Battle.net account to launch Overwatch 2. The same phone number cannot be used on multiple accounts at the same time, and players can't use the same phone number to create multiple accounts. A phone number can only be used once when making a new account, and certain types of numbers, including prepaid and VoIP, cannot be used for SMS Protect. Even if you own a previous box version of the original Overwatch, you still need to activate SMS Protect to play Overwatch 2. Discuss.
This isn't actually all that new for Blizzard and for gaming in general. I don't know if people are, familiar with, like, I think CS and Valve do this. Blizzard have actively been doing this with WoW, funnily enough, where you can't actually like use their built-in like. I think it's that you can't post like a looking for a group of bulletin, because what people were doing is bots were using it to like sell gold and like abuse it. So this is a system that I believe Blizzard has been using, or at least have been using in the past, or at least recently in the past, and that other games companies have been utilizing to kind of ensure, or at least better protect, the integrity of the gameplay experience. Does this cut down on a little bit of smurfing? Yeah, probably. At least puts a bigger barrier in front of it instead of just like buying the game again, or getting in front of like the free to play Andes, trying to just create second accounts and ruining people's lobbies. So I think this is probably for the best. Yes, it's mildly annoying. You said it once, you forget about it, and hopefully, your gameplay experience is a little bit bettered because of this, right? So I think there's some serious repercussions if you want to screw around and find out, as the kids say. Because once that number gets banned, you're banned for good. So you better be on your best behavior, and I think that's a good deterrent for trying to keep people at least neutral it doesn't necessarily reinforce positivity, but it incentivizes people in the inverse way to at least not
It's a punishment.
not be pricks. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also a
So
good filter.
I'm in for. I'm cool with that. That's fine with me. I'll be putting in my number. No questions asked.
No, but then the NSA will know that you're playing Overwatch. You wouldn't want that, would you?
Poggers, I hope they see me in the LFGF cat girl lobbies and in the custom games. Shout out, holla at me.
Yeah.
Get at your boy, NSA.
Yiska, you had some
what you
potential
want.
concerns about the prepaid portion because I'm pretty sure. This is going to impact me as well because I think I'm prepaid. So like, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't know, like.
Yeah, I don't know what that means actually. Like how
Does that
they
mean I have to
verify that.
do I have to get a phone plan? Like, how do they check what is like? First of all, is this like an American thing, or is this like
those
everybody?
details are
Right?
odd.
Because different countries and different regions,
For sure.
You know, some of the phone shit's
different.
not the same.
Would it be less restrictive if it was just tied to competitive? Would that make things a little bit easier for people?
Well, I just think like maybe the prepaid portion doesn't need to be as stringent. Like,
yeah,
you know, that seems very
if
restrictive.
people are really going
so-
out and buying
here's
like
the
burner
thing.
phones.
Well, that's
not that
well,
hard.
here's the thing: is like that's still a price someone's paying.
Yeah,
You know?
like it's still a
And
barrier that you have to go.
They're not paying that to Blizzard. That's one thing, but at the same time, it's like we're talking about like deterrence. That's still a reasonable deterrent because you have to be. And we're gonna get to the first time user experience in a second, but you have to be you have to be paying for a new number, and then you have to go through the first time user experience again, which is a time cost.
It's annoying. Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like the whole prepay thing might be a little bit too harsh, and that actually could be a barrier to entry as well, even for like someone curious about the game, someone very casual that just wants to try it out, and then they're like, "Well, I'm not gonna fucking get a phone plan just to try Overwatch." You know what I'm saying? Like if you're only curious about it.
Oh, totally. Like this is one of those like NA centric ideas that like everybody is just on a phone playing, and I feel like most of the rest of the world, I do have to wonder, and that's maybe where you guys can kind of chime in. If that's actually the case, you know, or if there is like a sizable portion, even though, you know, a smaller, you know, than the majority of the population that doesn't actually have a contract with a, you know.
Because otherwise, Joe, I got a challenge ahead for myself. I'm going to set a challenge for myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to be the first ever caster of a professional esports league. And I'm not gonna go and try and specify whether it's a tier 1 or tier 2 or whatever, because that's a bit of a pissing contest. But let's just, you know, whatever the top end esport professional whatever of your game is. I'm gonna be the first one of those to be doing a game with 0 fucking play time because I can't play the game because I have a prepaid number. So I'm just gonna you know what? Fuck it. I'll just not play the game and still cast it, and I'll be the first. You know.
I would
haven't even played the game. Haven't even played the game. Don't touch the game. Still casting at the top level. Boom. That's a achievement.
I've got to hope that they've at least thought of that, and that being less restrictive on, you know, the region that your battle.net account is tied to. I don't know how that works logistically on the back end, but I have to assume that they've thought of that. And it won't be a problem, but if it is, I think that seems like a PR. Seems like an oversight, let's say.
Yeah.
But all things considered, I'm down. I don't know. This seems fine to me.
I guess we'll find out on launch day on October 4th or 5th for me. We'll find out. Like, I'll just be sitting there. Like, can I log in or not? I will find out live, you know? Like, oh shit, I can't log in. Do I buy a phone plan then? Like, what do I do?
Any percent speed run.
See, like, you know.
World
It's a free-to-play
first.
game. You don't have to pay a subscription, but you do need to pay a subscription to your phone carrier. That's what you got to pay a subscription to.
True.
At that point, I might as well just like buy an actual phone plan that comes with a brand new phone as well. I didn't want to upgrade my phone now, but I might be forced to.
Is this Blizzard teasing that they've now sponsored and are now partnering with T-Mobile to be the official
Distributor
phone
of
provider?
Mobile.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I don't know. I thinking about like online gaming experiences and how much toxicity that I have both partaken in as a young adult and teenager. and have definitely received. I've always kind of assumed that this was always going to be the course of action, where like there's like a voice chat monitoring system, or they they want to tie some like very tangible objects to your account so that if they do catch you messing around, you have to be punished. You can't just go around and just be an asshole.
So what we can say is, generally speaking, the pros and cons of SMS Protect is that obviously it will do a lot to curb bad behavior and all that kind of stuff. But also we may have some concerns about just how restrictive and difficult it is to jump through the hoops. And I have to believe that Blizzard know that if the, as much as look, proud of you, Blizzard, you want to be like all PMA and stuff, and curb all the toxicity. I back that, but if there's too many hoops in place and no one's going to be able to log in, no one's going to be able to, well, not no one, but you know what I mean. It's like, there's going to be a reasonable number of people that are just going to be like, no, that's just one step too far for me. Right? I'm not going to pick up a brand new phone plan just to play a game. I got too many other games to play for this to be a problem. For this, if this is the hurdle, then that's just too much of a hurdle. So there you go, people. We are willing to criticize. In fact, we do it all the time. It's just about criticizing the right thing. That's the funny thing, is like I just think like criticizing like, oh, my data might be, it's just like the most silly thing. It's like, if you're gonna be upset about something, be upset about the correct thing. That's what I'm trying to get at, people. You're allowed to be upset. You're allowed to like criticize, but please start criticizing the correct things and not just dumb shit like my data. Oh, the privacy of my data. Well, that's again, that ship sailed. You shouldn't have fucking went on. If you've been on the internet and you have a phone, that's already too far gone already. You're too far gone. Sorry.
True.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the next thing. I said we were going to do the first time user experience. I lied. We're going to get to the voice thing first. But beyond that, this is the order. This is the order of outrage. No, actually, probably isn't. I don't know what order. This is all within the same. Okay, let's talk about the whole voice thing. So, okay, here we go. Blizzard is basically doing machine learning and audio transcripts to hand out punishments and handle the reporting for in-game behavior, bad in-game behavior. So what it's coming down to is, it says here, we are expanding our detection of capabilities by introducing audio transcripts in the following weeks after launch. Audio transcriptions allow us to collect a temporary voice chat recording of a reported player and automatically transcribe it through speech-to-text programs. The text file is then analyzed for disruptive behavior by our chat review tools. Once the audio recording has been transcribed to text, it's quickly deleted, as the file's sole purpose is to identify potentially disruptive behavior. The text file is then deleted no later than 30 days after the audio transcription. That's essentially it. Now, this one had people in a bit of a hissy fit as well, because now they're like, oh, Blizzard are recording my audio? Gasp, shock, horror.
I can't just say whatever I want in online environments anymore.
Well, that's not even the issue. The issue is people think their privacy is being breached. There was even one hilarious thread on the Overwatch forum. Sorry, I had to bring them up. I didn't personally. Someone brought this to my attention. I've long tried my best to not go there. Someone brought this to my attention.
Sure.
There was one hilarious thread titled, "Is this unconstitutional?" Like, I'm not even fucking joking. That's literally what it said about the whole audio transcription. They said, "Is it unconstitutional?" Holy fuck!
If it wasn't obvious enough,
remove that person's citizenship. Holy shit!
Yeah, that's incoming lawyer wannabe student. That thinks they know the ins and outs. I won't comment on if it is or is not, but I think it's just a little bit obtuse to try to make a claim that this is somehow bigger than what it is. Could Blizzard mishandle something like this? Yeah, of course, any big company could, but let's talk about when they do, if and when it does happen, right? Is it a little overreaching? Hard to say. I think this is just the natural course of things when you have millions and millions of people engaging in voice communications on a daily basis, and this being another attack vector for like targeted harassment to either minority groups or just anybody, really, right? You have to find ways to police this. We have ways to police text abuse. We have ways to police in-game harassment, and now we have ways to police voice harassment. So I don't know. This doesn't shock me. This doesn't surprise me. It's a little uncomfortable, a little bit.
But is it unconstitutional? I'm kidding. But here's the thing. Here's the thing: is it's people are not even accurate. Again, they're not even accurately being upset about the correct thing here, because there's some misinformation out there. And people are assuming Blizzard are just going to collect and log and store your voice data. Now, first of all, again, based on what's already been said here, they are doing speech to text transcribing. That's automatically done. No human being, this has been confirmed, no human being will be hearing your voice. The audio is automatically transcribed to text via machine learning, and then that text log, which is at that point identical to a chat log, it's all in text, is then reviewed.
Yep.
And then that text file is even deleted. So that file is no longer on system.
I'm actually kind of surprised about that. I think that's actually kind of a gimme from Blizzard's end.
Once the judgment has been distributed, I mean, what point is there to hold on to extra stuff, I guess, is. And also, like, this is all, I don't know how, I mean, text files aren't huge, but like if you're storing millions of text files, I mean, I'm sure that takes up a bit of space somewhere. Obviously, despite me saying all of that, there'll be some dumbass out there that'll be like, yeah, but do you really believe a Blizzard? Surely they're lying to you, and they're just gonna sell your information to blah blah blah. And it's like, yeah, bro, someone will definitely want to sell information about you saying expletives and dropping slurs, or at best saying nano me. That's going to be very useful information to Amazon. I'm sure they'll be paying top dollar for that. But they'll be paying top dollar for your voice chat logs, voice logs. You saying monkey. I'm sure.
I hope I get better targeted ads.
Yeah, they'll probably start targeting with like all banana ads and stuff like that. I'm sure that Amazon are going to love that.
Yeah.
Again, guys, you have a cell phone. It has a microphone built into it. It has GPS. It has a camera on the phone. If the NSA wanted to fucking listen in on you, it's already too fucking late. Again, they don't need Blizzard's permission. They don't need any help from Blizzard. If they want to fuck you, they can. It's just like it's too far gone. If you have a phone, it's already too late. Like if like try to I don't know, get all like weird about what Blizzard may or may not do. It's like, brother in Christ, you have far bigger problems to worry about if that's your concern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, this is the natural, flow of things, in my opinion. So I don't know, nothing to gripe about here.
Thing is, there might be some concerns in terms of like how the translation works, because I mean,
I'm sure somebody's going to get like unruly banned, right, because of like a mistranslation. Yeah. But I think in the vast majority of cases, this is going to be a net positive for, a lot of people.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm sure there's going to be a bug. I'm sure there's going to be an error in translation, and it's going to have to go under manual review. And, somebody's going to get locked out of the game.
I'm just going to start
a couple days
making up new offensive terms using rather benign like nouns. I don't know, like why would you alt there, you McMuffin? Just stuff like stupid stuff like that. You can't cash me for that.
But that's funnier.
I'm just talking about McDonald's.
That's hilarious.
All my toxicity is now just going to be
just shrouded.
Like it's all going to be done cloak and dagger. Like I'm going to use words you don't even understand.
I hope Frick.
That way you
can't.
Who?
Frick. I hope Frick comes back as like an expletive. I want to run around.
I've heard if you use that word, you can't go to heaven. Is what I heard.
I'll see you in hell.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Dang it.
Yeah, it's not just that. To be fair, I think as people from other language communities says, then things that, there has to be a lot of context, and I hope the approval process is pretty thorough and whatnot. But yeah, generally speaking, like, Emma, come on. This is like, I think what happened here, right? If you think about it, is I think this, as well as the ping system, was probably a direct reaction to. Do you guys remember the whole discussion around using voice chat? There was someone on Twitch in the viewership council.
Yeah.
And while everyone clowned on the person making that point, it was always.
What's the point again? Clarify.
Okay, the point was the following: that it is unfair or a competitive disadvantage, or that, okay, the way this person framed it was very inflammatory, saying like voice chat should be banned. I think that was never really the best solution here. No. What, like, the argument though was that people who are of a minority group and or like women,
correct, yes,
will be at a competitive disadvantage giving away their linguistic profile. And I'm 100% tell you, if you have been playing online games and paid some attention, then you know this is true. Yep. And you can give me the whole spiel about, personal responsibility, just block. As soon as I, as someone from a particular minority or, someone with a particular, linguistic profile that is offensive to the general gamer bro, reveal myself by using voice, they are now tilted and will throw my game and will underperform. Yep. And that is not, there's nothing I can do in order to not have this. So what can you do? A, you can give people who don't want to reveal their linguistic profile a good method to communicate, which is the ping system. I think that every online game should have this now. And it will eventually, like, whatever inequality there is in the system by people just throwing because of the identity you are giving away from yourself by using a voice. Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. And then you also have to punish those that are toxic for all reasons, right? Like, you gotta police it somehow. And that is also a completely salient point. Like, once again, the devil is in the detail. We gotta see this system in practice, right? And there's a lot to fuck up technically, like in practice. But once again, like, the general overview is nothing extraordinary from other game developers and what they're doing. It's pretty much industry standard, especially like pings. I feel like we're a little bit behind even.
For sure.
And all of this just helps folks. And let's be honest, like, it will just improve communication across the board. Like, for everyone. I don't know how you can be upset about any of this, other than like hardcore privacy concerned people who probably shouldn't be playing video games, given the TOS you have to sign, and that, like, you pretty much signed away that by engaging with Battle.net in the first place. So yeah, I think generally speaking, this had to happen, and I'm kind of looking forward to how this will be implemented. Because a lot of people have tried to find, ways to fix toxicity in games. There have been, there have been as many solutions as there have been, developers. You have the, what's it called? The Overwatch system in CS, right? Where, like, you have manual approval processes where people, like, check if someone's cheating or, like, harassing.
Remember the Tribunal
in League of Legends, pretty much the same. And there were automation processes. There's like reports, how reports work, how they should be treated, how you avoid abuse there. Like, it's a very complex topic that involves, like, psychology, player psychology. It involves the social dynamics of your game. How stressful is it? Can you de-stress the way the game is played, so you have less of that tension going on? Can you make amendments to your how players interact with your game in order to, not have to engage in talking to others or in any kind of exchange? Can you give them ways to protect themselves? Avoid features are great for that. And at the end of the day, yes, muting helps to a decent degree. Nothing helps you from a dude inting the game and throwing it down. Dude, I've been playing League recently. It's awful. It's awful, dude. I had a guy that was called 9x this chat or something, and this dude was just yeah, I'm a go into the game, throw it down mids, and then get 9x'd. It's, I don't know.
What does that mean?
9 times reported.
Oh.
Right. So
it's cool to get reported. He's just going for
just ruining people's experience. There are these assholes as well, and you gotta have systems that detect those guys as soon as possible as well, right?
Malicious experience ruining this isn't as far as you pick the annoying hero because haha, I walled the enemy out of their spawn. I may no this is actively harassing and being disruptive in truly unhealthy ways, not a gameplay experience. Don't get that twisted in your heads. This isn't picking an annoying hero. This is being a questionable human.
Yeah. Now, being the toxic gamer, the secretly toxic gamer that I am, I would still love a system like Call of Duty has or Warzone, where when you kill someone, their voice chat is
I think that's
up.
So funny. I think that is so hilarious.
Because there's no retaliatory action, right? There's no interaction. You just the person is just popping off. And sometimes it's very of course, people are racist on there and they should be banned for that. But most of the time, it's just oh, how? Stuff like that. Or in some funny accent and whatnot. I always love that type of stuff as well. I think sometimes
it's hilarious.
There are good ways to lean also a little bit into the, into the masochistic toxicity without hurting everyone. And of course, you should probably, those that overstep, of course, need to be banned once again. But yeah, because assholes, we can't have nice things.
True. Very true.
And now we get to part 3 of this blog that just, again, the most mountain out of molehill situation, really. This entire thing should have just been a bunch of cool, yes, whatever, next, move on.
Yeah.
But, internet gonna internet. Man, you really want to see what the most normie of the normie think. You start going to places like PC gaming and all that kind of stuff, and oh god, man, some of the comments. And there's 2 things that are correlated, by the way. The titles and the headlines get more and more basic and also misleading. And obviously, because here's the thing about modern journalism, it's not even just about journalists anymore. It really just it's so pervasive. It goes into even beyond content creators who also clickbait, but it goes into just the regular people who post on Reddit. If you make a thread on Reddit, it's for whatever reason because people care about fake internet points. Karma is the weirdest thing that people care about in the world. You're also incentivized to make really shitty clickbait or rage bait Reddit titles as well now. That's just how it all works. And so you just see these ultra normie Reddits, unbelievably normie 9-to-5 Reddits, and they're unbelievably outraged at things that are just not even an issue. So what is it? What is the first time user experience? It is... Let me just scan this this blog post really quickly to see if there's a paragraph I want to read out, or maybe I can just try and summarize it. The summary is that all first-time users of Overwatch, so if you've literally never played Overwatch before, and this is the first account touching Overwatch ever, like a brand new account, never touched Overwatch before, so not applicable to people that have already played Overwatch 1, then you will have a limited, restricted experience straight away, which people are going to think negatively of. But at the same time, the reason that's happening is because the game wants to ease you into the game rather than just dump everything on top of you.
Yeah.
So you're going to only have a limited roster of heroes. I believe it's less than half, maybe like a third to a half, which is somewhere between a third to a half heroes out of the current roster available, and then a small number of game modes available, and it will require you to approximately complete 100 matches to be able to unlock all the base heroes and the base game modes, all that kind of stuff. And you also can't access ranked until you win 50 quick play games.
Quick play.
I don't know if it's 50 quick play games or just 50 games from somewhere. No, 50 quick. No, it does say 50 quick play. Sorry, it does specifically state 50 quick play games. That's for ranked.
Sure.
The roughly 100 matches played is like an estimation of how long it'll take you. So these things are different. The 50 quick play and the 100 matches, they're not the same thing. Even though if your win rate's 50-50, you're probably doing both at the same time. One is for how long it'll roughly take to unlock everything, and the other one is how long and what the requirement is to gain access to ranked competitive play. So that's the first time user experience. And again, the justification is that it's less overwhelming to have things introduced to you slowly over time, like game features introduced to you slowly. And you can sort of get used to the game as things unlock. And as far as I'm aware, things unlock at a pretty steady pace. 100 matches has been calculated to be somewhere between 12 and 14 hours. So
it doesn't sound like that.
It's not that long. It's not not that long, guys. It's really not that long. And you know, I very much doubt that a brand new player is going to be playing every single hero and trying to do everything at the same time, when generally the average experience is that you will focus in on one role and then a couple of heroes within that role. Yeah, just a few heroes in that role, and you're just going to try and learn the game from there. And then you have people that are like upset about, oh well, like isn't this kind of like they didn't use the I don't think they said pay to win, but they wanted to say pay to win, but they couldn't. But even though I will admittedly, you can buy the Watch Point pack, and basically that flags your account as having played Overwatch 1, and you don't have to go through the first time use, so you can just get everything if you have the Watch Point pack. So in a way, if you want to do some mental gymnastics, you can say that is like potentially pay to win. But then I don't want to really get into that again, because then we have to talk about the whole like, do people really swap kind of thing? Because people are like, well, you know, if you only have access to less than half the roster, then how are you going to swap to X, Y, or Z? And it's just like, I don't think new players are concerned about that. If you are a brand new player, I don't think you have any idea, any fucking clue about what the meta is and what you should be swapping to. Right? No brand new player is upset they don't have access to X hero to counter Y hero. Well, you don't even fucking know what that is in the first place. You don't even know what counters are. You don't know what any strategy is. You know nothing. You are literally just a brand new player. You're not concerned about meta at all. So what we are hearing is all the outrage is coming from people who this doesn't even affect. Because if you know enough about the game to be concerned about like swapping and countering, then you're already like a pretty veteran player of the game, in which case none of this applies to you. You don't even have to go through this. This is not even for you. It's like being outraged on behalf of somebody else. Like, it doesn't even fucking apply to you. What are you upset about? So crazy.
To that point, I really want to drive this point home, that if you are more than likely listening to this podcast, you have Overwatch 1 installed on your computer, right? You likely have played Overwatch 1. None of this will affect you. I need everybody to understand that you will log in on October 4th on Overwatch 2's release and have every single hero you have ever had ever. This is only for the truly new and brand new users to the Overwatch experience that will have a lessened hero pool which to their like logic, I think is spot on. If we're to assume that this game is going to churn out heroes faster than fucking the internet churns out Rule 34 of Kiriko, apologies to Kiriko,
Well,
it's gonna be there's overwhelm isn't the word, right?
they're not
like,
churning our heroes that fast. To be fair, it's about the same as before. But
of course, but you hopefully you understand my point. Like, there's going to be an increase in heroes. Not to look at like the 2 years where we didn't have anything, but like this pool of heroes is going to get, you know, exponentially bigger. So you need to put systems in place so that people don't get overwhelmed. And it's anecdotally, I can speak from my own experience that like trying to play Dota, it's a fucking clusterfuck. You get stunned by like analysis paralysis, which is like, what do I play? There's like 100 and some odd different heroes. I kind of grew up playing League of Legends, so I can't really speak on behalf of that, but I can only imagine what it feels like trying to get into League of Legends now when there's like 120 plus heroes with like 18 bajillion different items, combinations, and doohickeys, and what are runes? I don't know what any of this is. How do I just want to play? How do I just play? Right? Sometimes restricting the sandbox makes the progression a little bit easier. It keeps people, you know, entangled within it. So, yeah, I really, because I am much like the average pleb that was like, kind of gave this a side eye at first. I'm like, what? They're restricting? Oh, no, if you just have the game like we all do, you just get everything anyways. Okay. Who cares? Like, anybody new coming into the game is probably going to be better off because of these restrictions. I wholeheartedly believe that. I understand that like might be hot, but like I wholeheartedly believe that restrictions in this context probably help them understand and learn the game at a far greater pace than just giving them all 34, 35 heroes that we're at this point.
Yeah.
So I think this is fine. I do not care.
Also gives like a pretty solid trickle of just like novelty, you know? Like it keeps it fresh for longer, I suppose, especially if you're into hero novelty.
That's true.
And I think
yeah,
a lot of people, considering like the general feedback whenever a new hero goes live, is generally pretty positive, and we've located heroes to be the content for Overwatch. Like imagine being a new player and having that experience, you know, every 20 games or whatever. So I don't know. Like I'm still on the. If I look into myself, I just enjoy getting stuff for grinding. Like that's very true to me.
Hello, nice to meet you, fellow grinder. I think there is a nice journey to grinding, but there can be like there are details to it that become like really obnoxious, right? Like there are those games that's like, okay, this is actually like anybody who's like recently played Lost Ark, shout outs to you if you're still playing, but like boy howdy was that like, you know, that was rough. You put in like hundreds of hours. Apparently Warzone's like this.
Warzone is like terrible in the sense, like for instance, sometimes we'll have stuff like, okay, this SMG is the best in the game. Okay, right, I want it.
Sure,
okay, now for 25 matches, please crouch kill 5 people in each match. You have to play the match to completion, and it's like, oh. And then like if you don't have the Call of Duty proper, then you got to do it in Warzone proper. Or in one of the game modes, and like Warzone proper, it's pretty hard to get that accomplished for the majority of the player base. And like now, like you're just outgunned, and like in there it makes a really noticeable difference, right? Like the DPS is different.
Okay. Sure.
If you look at the stats of guns in Warzone, the kill KD that some guns have are astronomically better than everything else that's competing, right? So there it makes a real difference, and I mean it's almost blatantly in your face that okay, you could buy the Call of Duty and then you could go on like what's it called, this container map, this small container map that has been in Call of Duty forever, where you can just get endless frags in people who know Call of Duty will know that, and there you can just get that, you know, in 2 minutes or whatever.
Quickly.
and grind, and then that incentivizes you buying the game proper. And it's like, okay, I see what you're doing.
Is that by design though? I hate to make this a Call of Duty discussion, but do you believe that's a design?
Yeah. I think it is a design decision. Or you can just
you don't think that's just like a feature or just like a loophole that players have just identified that is kind of hard to get around?
No, I don't think so. Especially because like reliably the new guns eventually will become the meta weapon.
Okay.
And they're like, sometimes they are in the battle pass, but sometimes they're also part of a challenge. And then it's just generally better to have the up-to-date Call of Duty title accessible.
Yeah. I'll say this to kind of redirect us back to Overwatch for a second. Anybody new who starts playing Overwatch 2 for the first time, I would be willing to bet a sizable amount of money that they will fall in love with the game far harder than we all did initially, because of that rewarding process of like playing games and unlocking heroes and then continuing on. Because one of my biggest gripes about the game, like in beta, was that it just felt really, really shallow. Like I could log on and play games and that was really fun, but I never got a. Yeah, no, Overwatch 1.
Oh yeah,
way back when.
Yep.
It felt very shallow in terms of content because I had nothing to progress through.
Yeah.
Right. Whether it be a battle pass or unlocking heroes or doing XYZ. And there was a charm to that. It was really nice and refreshing. But it was almost like I was too spoiled. Right. Like I needed something to do. Like, why was I playing ranked? Like, I don't care about my rank all that much. Like, yeah, cool. Like I hit plat or I hit diamond. Sweet. That gets tiresome after a while. What else am I like killing two birds with one stone with? Like, cool, I can rank up, but I can also unlock the new hero or like save up currency to unlock XYZ or buy this new skin or complete the battle pass to get, whatever it is. I really, really believe that the system, as gross as this is about to sound, the new system that's coming out with Overwatch 2 with the new user experience restriction, is going to be a far more enjoyable experience that is going to like really entice a new wave of players in a very positive way for kind of all of us.
You know what? Like, it's also like one of the most fair systems out there. Like, it really is. If you think about, if you were to play most other free-to-play titles that have locked characters, how long it takes you to get most of that roster. Okay, I have to make a distinction between, in Overwatch 2, I have to make a distinction between the new heroes like Kiriko and whatever after that, and a distinction between that and the base 32 heroes, not including Sojin and Junker Queen and Kiriko. Because your journey to unlocking all 32 of the base heroes is super fucking quick. Unless you're playing Dota or something where everything's already unlocked, that's a different discussion. But if you're playing like Rainbow Six Siege, League of Legends, Valorant, I don't know enough about Paladins, so I don't know if I want to drop that one in there. Smite, anything like that, that actually has characters to unlock. You are not unlocking like 90+% of that roster within 12 hours.
Nope. No shit.
You
get maybe like, a character.
Oh, you might get one character in 12 hours, yeah.
Maybe one or two.
I remember when I was like spamming Apex for a while, and I was like, I was on the full free-to-play path. I'm like, I'm gonna try and play this game full free-to-play, see what it looks like. It took me fucking forever just to get one new character.
Yeah, it's very
from like a pure new player experience. Because every time I bring this up, all the hardcore Apex players are like, yeah, well, I have like 1 million of the currency. I can just buy every new character. I'm like, I don't.
Cool.
I'm a brand new player. I don't have that. Like, what?
Yeah.
Cool. Like, yeah, cool. You have it. I don't. Like, I'm talking about the first time user experience here, and it takes me forever to get a new character.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
But like, I don't know. Like, people are also weird about like you try and use this line of argument, and people on the internet will just be like, oh, whataboutism. They don't know what that word means, by the way. Ironically, them using the term whataboutism actually is whataboutism. Anyway, so they'll bring that up, or they'll say like, yeah, but like I don't care about other games. This is Overwatch. Or my favorite one currently that people love to use is like, yeah, but those games you don't swap heroes. You don't swap heroes in Overwatch either, but people don't want to admit that.
Yeah. Sadly, I think that the majority of players probably are, you look at their competitive history, or even their play rate, they probably have like 1 or 2 heroes, maybe 3, 4 if you're lucky.
And listen, we don't need to get into that again
simply
because I think that topic's been
we've
done to
talked
death
about
at this point. But it's like the point is, it is a very friendly system compared to others out there in terms of like first time user. And I think it's fair as well that like if you're a brand new player coming in, you probably shouldn't be playing Echo straight away because Echo's existence alone dictates that you know how to fucking play the game because her ultimate literally copies another hero. And if you don't know the game, you're not going to do anything. This is a very difficult hero to play.
Yeah.
100%.
If I can word this for people in like a positive spin, just think of this as another boundary that Smurfs have to go into, right? Like, the Smurf that bought a prepaid phone card or has swindled somebody out of their phone number now has to unlock Tracer to Smurf in my bronze lobbies. Ugh, boy howdy, is that just so like. This is a net benefit for a lot of different reasons. Yes, is it restrictive? 100% it is. Restriction doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. Inherently, it's not.
Can I also
depend? Yeah,
okay,
go on.
Like I kind of want to add like a different perspective on all of this.
You go for it.
Okay, so
I'll get him.
I feel like, and this might just be like being omega tired of the discourse, but yes, it will matter to a decent degree, and like the discourse matters online in how people engage with a product, but what first and foremost matters is how good the product is. Let's be honest, we know that like everyone's like about a lot of things. Talk is cheap. Do you show up to play or not? That's basically like the thing, right? And that's true for everything on the internet, right? Like people lie about their preferences, or people misinterpret, people over sensationalize. But at the end of the day, it's whether or not they start playing, click the play button or not, right? And that is almost single-handedly down to the quality of the actual experience in the end. And I think it will be significantly better than what the current online discourse, at least in some circles among gaming journalism, specifically is.
Volamel.
It's also I remember back, like when Overwatch 2 first came out and people got access to the beta, it was like super, like games journalists were super high on the game experience, right? Like it's super polished and like the characters are so distinct and everything like that. It's still like the core identity is still there. It's just more developed. We have a more FPS experience. We have a more up-to-date like gameplay loop and reward mechanism. We've gone away with a lot of the idealistic game design that, if we're being honest, like have your idealistic position, like Jeff had, like you will never have to pay for another hero, like golden guns are bad, like you should only play for whatever the gameplay experience provides to you. You're not gaming for that, dude. Like 5% are gaming for that, and I feel for you. The rest are competing in social status ladders. Enjoy the reward mechanism, the dopamine shots they get from unlocking a new hero. Enjoy having some, memorabilia of like titles that you get through the ranked system this time. Like people who played Overwatch as World of Warcraft in the past will remember the Gladiator system. This is a dumbed down or like a different version of this, right? These are the things that add stakes and meaning to a degree to this. And yes, it's artificial to a degree, but so is everything.
You're a bet your sweet ass it is.
Yeah, so is everything. Like this is playing games merely for the fun of the actual experience is empirically just not the only game on the market anymore. And if it is, you're probably not going to stick around for a long time. You're going to play 20 hours, then the fun is sucked out of the gameplay loop, and then you're going to drop it.
Yeah.
And now
that's okay.
you have ways to elongate the enjoyment that you get out of it, and elongate the experience of exploring, take some of the choices off. It helps you get an entrance to a otherwise very complex game. And I guess we'll eventually talk about it, but probably still, like, in the type of feedback that you get, probably still not good enough. But all of that is still, it's still an experience that there's nothing like Overwatch on the FPS market. It's still an incredibly polished experience. And now we have novelty injections in healthy cadence, hopefully, going forward, if they keep it to their plan. So I feel like in the end we can all chat shit, and once again we could also, eat our words if Blizzard doesn't deliver. It's all like, the launch is bad, like all the systems don't work, they don't make good on their promises, and like let's say, I don't know, like the hero that was supposed to come in season 2 actually comes in season 3, delays, blah blah blah. It could all happen, but from what we know right now, I'm fairly positive that while I'm not sure if it will grow to the same phenomena level that we were, because we also hit a very sweet spot in the launch calendar at the time, nothing really else was competing with it. I still think like this is a good direction. It's actually serving the type of gameplay experiences that most players seek out. Yes, it's not like for the 5% of idealists who make that argument and actually mean and feel it. I feel for you. Like that's I have no beef with you, but the vast majority of you, I expect to be falsifying their preferences, and there you just like, whether you know it or not, you'll just be playing like everyone else, like every other sucker.
Yep. You're all addicted like we are. Hello, WoW community. I'm speaking to you. If there is any crossover, which I believe there probably is, you're going to show up on launch day, even though you lambasted Blizzard for all the mistakes they did in the past and how they're a dog shit company, and you're going to show up, you're going to pay your $60, you're going to have some fun with your friends. Period. The end.
And that's the thing. If there becomes like some serious actual launch issues, game-breaking bugs, other issues in terms of just how the game plays, maybe just some certain lack of polish that's affecting the gameplay, those are all very valid complaints that I'll be behind. In fact, I'll be one of the first to write that shit up on Twitter and go off.
Ditto.
So, yes, moving on.
We can't like just criticize something that isn't there yet. We can maybe warn or be concerned about things that may be unhealthy in the future, but until they fuck up, we can't really do any, we can't voice any concerns or, critique something that doesn't exist. So
let's talk about now.
We're going in good ways.
The competitive ranked 2.0 changes that they've put in there. Separate new article that was brought up today, even day of the recording. So we had basically got a bit of a teaser about what the new competitive 2.0 related things were going to be. For a while now, I believe there was an article. I can't remember which outlet had the article. Now they did an interview with Aaron Keller, and he kind of dropped in some nuggets of info about competitive 2.0, but never made any sort of very wide-reaching discussion or explanation of it. I believe that's been made now on this new blog post. So again, if you want to check it out, go to playerwatch.com and go to the news tab. It'll be there. First and foremost, something we already talked about, but unlocking competitive. So you can't get ranked unless you win 50 quick play matches. Right? So that basically, because they've gotten rid of levels now, accounts don't have levels. Yeah. It used to be level 25 you had to be before you could play ranked. Now, what I believe this is it should be quicker to get 50 quick play match wins than to get to level 25 on Overwatch 1.
More than likely, yeah.
Because getting to level 25 on Overwatch 1, I remember I never had a Smurf, and I only did it one time, and I can't remember how it was. But as far as I remember, from people that do have Smurfs, like that shit is always a drag. Like that shit always feels like it takes forever. So I think Thankfully, no one's got to complain about this because this is just standard, right? You have to have some sort of like
Of course.
gate in the way, some hurdle in place to prevent people from just locking ranked straight away. Beyond that, skilled tier divisions is a new thing coming on it. It's an update to what we already have, so it's new and old. Essentially, the bronze, silver, gold, platinum, etc. ranks have been divided further into tiers between 5 and 1. 5 being the lowest and 1 being the highest. So, for example, gold 5, gold 4, gold 3, gold 2, gold 1. If you play League of Legends, the system is not too different from that. You basically within each of the tiers between bronze to grandmaster, each of those tiers also has 5 sub tiers within them. As far as I know, SR does exist, but it's all hidden. So you don't get to see what your skill rating is anymore. That's all hidden information, and that's all deliberate as well, because the idea is that you are not they're trying to remove some of the anxiety behind queuing ranked and some of the, the constant updates, which can be quite negative, especially if you're losing. No one minds seeing the SR go up with a win. That's a great reward, but it really does suck if you lose, especially if you're losing in a row and you're just seeing your SR drop. And that kind of constant updating SR is, at least based on what Blizzard research is, a pretty negative thing for people's experience in ranked. So they're hoping to take away a bit of the pressure of ranked by sort of hiding that information behind the scenes and only updating you once every 7 wins or 20 losses/ties. And apparently each division represents approximately 100 SR. So gold is what, 2,000 to 2,500 currently? Am I correct in that? So gold 5 is 2,000 to 2,100, and then gold 4 is 100 to 200, etc. until you get to platinum. So that's how that is. I'm just seeing if there's anything else I missed. We'll talk about the UI and the reports and stuff later. Just general thoughts on the new skill tier ratings and stuff like that currently. Anyone's
Seems cool. Pretty familiar with it from StarCraft and League. If it helps people, it helps people. Cool. I like it.
I generally dislike everything that delays my direct feedback to the game. I really dislike the only feedback every 7 games type of...
If you lose, you lost. What do you mean?
Yeah, but I want to see how much rating progression I've lost, because that helps me understand how good my opponents were. That helps me understand how the system, or it gives me an approximation of how the system values my individual performance. And I will also say, unfortunately, I thought it was going to be in there, but it's not to the extent that I'd hoped to give direct feedback on player performance. So let me explain why I have an issue with that in Overwatch. I think Overwatch as a game and as an esports title is incredibly delayed feedback in terms of like good or bad gameplay, right? That's both true for playing the game as well as viewing the game. My favorite subject that whenever I discuss this topic is I was at Take TV and we were playing Goats, and I think it was Numlocked that hit a shatter, and everyone hit the ground, but the opponent Lucio beat the shatter, and everyone, like, the shatter goes and everyone's like, yes! And then the beat goes out and 0 people die and everyone just feels subjugated in their emotion. And then down the line, now they don't have beat for the graph and whatnot, and like they loosen the graph. So I don't know, 15 seconds down the line, that shatter was actually very impactful. Now, for the viewer, that wasn't an immediate feedback loop. That was a good thing, right? That it wasn't as transparent that a good play wasn't just, completely countered, even though I will say that's a counterplay for sure in the beat, but that it still mattered down the line. And I think Overwatch is very often like this, unless it's literally like getting a kill. Getting a kill is the fastest feedback that you get in terms of like hit scan DPS. If you click ahead, that's good. Yeah. But even dying sometimes, like, dying is not always bad in Overwatch, right? Like, dying means maybe you're denying ult charge, so you jump off a map. That's not bad dying per se. It's not good towards the outcome of the map, but
I mean, somebody kills you dying specifically, but
right. Even that, like I could sacrifice myself into a blade. That's good dying, because nobody gets ult charge. But yeah, generally speaking, like I guess you don't want to sacrifice yourself needlessly. I guess there are plays where you do that strategically, even though that's
Yes.
But dying and
There's something
killing
to lose gracefully.
is about as good. Everything in between that, like cooldown usage or like positioning, you have to infer whether or not that was a good play or not. And the feedback that you get from the game, whether or not your decisions were generally positive and compounded, was pretty weak in terms of like what kind of feedback you got from the game. The best estimation of how your decisions were in this map or in this situation is being on fire. And I wish we would have leaned into what being on fire means and had more of a, transparent under the hood view of what it means. Like on fire probably looks at like the relevant metrics, be compared against the field in the relevant metrics for my hero that I'm playing, and estimates that I'm currently overperforming a certain percentage over the average, right? That's basically what on fire is. Now, why not tell me where I overperformed? Now, here's the thing. I'll give you an analogy that I understand why there's a problem in that, but I think generally you still get to gain. So there's an add-on, a Google Chrome add-on called Grammarly. I believe it's even a Ukrainian company that does it. And Grammarly is one of the best add-ons in order to like automatically make you aware of when you have a grammar mistake, and like it gives you clarity, options, and whatnot. The bad thing that editors rightly point out is Grammarly has an algorithmically determined or like predetermined way to use language. So all their improvements will be very uniform, and like there's a fear that everyone will sound the same because of Grammarly usage. Now transport that idea into Overwatch. If the stats look at, okay, the average Ana heals this much and hits this much anti-nades and blah, 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 and compares me against the average there, then it is impacting my gameplay by telling me this is what good Ana play looks like, when it isn't objectively the only case, right? It's giving me a direct feedback loop in how to play Ana that might not objectively be the best and might take my, like, some agency or, like, will give me the wrong feedback based on the play that I'm doing. At the same time, on average, in every single moment, Grammarly is an improvement over the, like, you boshing a sentence. In the same sense, you getting feedback that you're overperforming your SR level by a healthy amount in a particular metric is pretty good feedback, right? And if you can sort of contextualize this sufficiently,
I have a solution.
That would be great feedback, and we need shorter feedback loops. So there's a difference between like down the line feedback and short feedback. If I touch the hot plate, that's immediate feedback. I'll never do it again. If I touch the hot plate and 2 hours later my hand starts hurting, I don't know what happened, right? And the shorter we can make that feedback loop in good play and bad play, the more satisfying and the better Overwatch will be played eventually.
Agreed.
Right? So I wish we had more of that.
I think for players like you, they could adopt a system like they have in Valorant, which has little arrows going up or down. It doesn't give you any specificity on like how much your rating has gone up or down, but it gives you a general like, oh, it's gone up a reasonable amount. It's gone up a little bit. You know, it'll give you that type of context without going into really extreme detail, because the granularity of the specific numbers going up or down, I think, is a good thing that's been removed.
Yeah.
We talk about like what is the seesaw weighing of the pros and cons here. The pros certainly, in my opinion, outweigh the cons, and you've brought up some reasonable cons, but I think the pros still outweigh those, in my opinion.
And
So
to Yiska's point, I think you can have both. The issue is that we haven't really had much communication on Yiska's front of like providing reasonable and detailed metrics and statistics, maybe out of the way that you actually have to like go and look for, to really see if you are performing well against your peers, right? I think you can have very very quiet SR changes, but with very loud statistics, if that makes sense. And I kind of suspect that there are third-party companies moving in the works to probably get ahead of this in Overwatch 2. I wouldn't be shocked in the, in 2 years after October, after its full release, maybe a year after its full release, if we don't have something similar to like an OPGG or something, because they've done this in the past with Heroes of the Storm. I remember like playing Heroes of the Storm and getting out of a game and being like, hey, you did X amount of percentage damage more than your, the average player. You scored within this percentile of, structure damage done, whatever it is, right? I think Blizzard is capable of doing this. I have to imagine that this is probably put on the back burner to try to ship this game as quick as possible. So I do believe that we can have both our cake and eat it too. So I agree with AVRL in probably trying to limit the impact, the anxiety inducing impact of ladder climbing and the seesaw effect.
Also,
but also having like impact.
I'm gonna be real. When I watch pros stream ranked and then playing, they always skip the SR update. No one even looks at it. Whether it's up or down, they literally don't care. Like that. I mean, maybe I shouldn't be using them as an example because clearly they're a different breed.
Yes.
They're built diffy, as the kids would say. But no, they don't. They just skip their SR portion entirely. It makes no difference to them. So,
and I think what the lesson there that I think a lot of people need to hear is that if you are just 1% above the algorithm that tries to keep you at 50-50, the solution is just to play mass amounts of games. You don't care about whether you won or lost. You are playing the odds, and you will climb. If you are actively trying and communicating well and being a good teammate and performing the best that you can, the algorithm will keep you will keep climbing. I don't know.
Let's talk about a couple of other things included in that because we're stuck on skill tier divisions for a little bit. They are also looking at before I get into UI. It was right on my mind. What was it? I had something right on the tip of my tongue there. In relation to, give me a second. It was in relation to the match report progress kind of deal. Oh yeah, they're removing no, sorry, I'm lying, it wasn't related. They're removing stuff like your rank even being shown in the lobby as you enter the map. Because right now you go in
whatever
and it shows you like, oh, this is everybody's rank in SR. That's even being removed right now because I think it all comes back down to, first of all, removing toxicity from the game because people get unnecessarily biased about it. Like you'll get into a game and maybe you're diamond, you're going to get unnecessarily upset about the one plat person on your team, right?
Yeah, because they're the one different,
Yeah, and then before a second of gameplay has even been had, you're already not happy with this person.
You already have a bias
against them. So that's one good thing about it. The other thing is it's just like, I don't know, like people, you just shouldn't care. People shouldn't care about that. That's another lesson that I think we've learned from Valorant Ranked. There's a couple of things that Valorant Ranked have done well, and that's one of them as well, where they don't reveal your rank in the lobby, so you're just in there fresh. And we can get even further in that because they have like other forms of protection as well, such as hiding your identity altogether. Like your name, if you want, you can your name in ranked, your name when you play is just the name of the character you're playing. You're just called Phoenix or Jet or whatever. You don't even have a name. Like, so people can't even identify you. They don't know what rank you are. They can't identify you. You're just a person there, which I think is like probably another positive thing if we want to curb toxicity, right?
Yeah. The only reasonable way why this ever mattered is when people do acute, because Like then it could be that the system takes the aggregate, and then like it helps you to know that one guy is the weaker player because he's gold, and you're playing in plat with whatever. Other than that, like if it's not the case, someone being in plat but playing with diamonds just means that person has the same MMR. Like if you disagree like and don't understand how MMR works, like and I think a lot of people are confused how MMR systems under the hood work. Just don't show that to people. Like I think it just added too much frustration out the gate. It seems so intuitively easy to understand, but like apparently it's never been. But just anecdotally, like how do MMR systems work, or how does ELO work? Like how many points do I get? Those are like some of the biggest key searches in every video game that has ELO systems or MMR systems, right? Because people, like, it's so frequently that people just don't understand, think they're hard stuck, don't understand, like, why am I getting 3 points here, blah, blah, blah. When, I mean, to a degree, honestly, pros don't understand how MMR works. Best illustrated by the fact that they want an MMR reset. If you think that, you don't understand how MMR systems work. So, there is just no benefit. Like it just like not showing that is the best you can do.
Yep. And to rephrase, because I'm a big proponent of like rewording things. I kind of stole this from like some like card game streamers that or content creators that I peruse. Instead of viewing this as like trying to remove toxicity, because I get people like. I can hear them just rolling their eyes like, oh, we're all not that toxic. Yeah. Think of this as you just not getting tilted as often. You're not having biases and loading screens. You're not, getting tilted because you have a gold player on your team. Simple. You're just not getting tilted as much. And you know what that means? You're probably going to climb more. If you're less tilted, you're probably performing better. You're probably thinking clear. You're not thinking, necessarily super emotionally. So this is a net positive for you. So congratulations. I hope you enjoy your SR.
The next thing on board was the UI. I already teased this multiple times. This is probably one of the maybe less exciting things because we already knew about this ages ago. But there's a new screenshot on there. Looks pretty clean.
Looks cool.
And it's basically just a slightly more polished version of what we already had in the beta. So we're just talking about the scoreboard, right? Talking about displaying the actual data and scores. I mean, this is so highly requested from Overwatch 1, while still retaining a bunch of your own personal stats, like your own personal accuracies and what abilities are hitting in some percentages in there. It's just really cool stuff that helps you identify where you are in relation to everybody else. Placement matches in Season 1. Let's have a look at this. This is interesting. So instead of playing 5 placement matches, you'll be unranked until your first competitive update at 7 wins or 20 losses / ties. So there's no more placement games. I mean, you can just consider like 7 wins.
Yeah, just
however long it takes you to get 7 wins is your placement games. That's your placement. So again, not super remarkable in terms of information. Cool. It is what it is. I believe they are also resetting some rank per season so that you are being dropped lower per season. That's a pretty standard thing. I think you're generally speaking dropped 1 tier below. So if you finish diamond one season, you will start in plat the next season, something like that. Yep. This is a little bit more interesting. Game reports. So this is not reporting somebody in game for abusive behavior. This is when I talk about this is like an after action report about how well you did and what things you did. So one of the things that is quite important in this new competitive experience is the game wants to teach you something. The game wants to teach you tell you what you did wrong, tell you what you did right, have things for you to focus on. And I believe this is a thing they're definitely going to be working on for a long time because they want to be able to, again, show you ways to improve the game. But essentially, the game reports is like right now you can look at like your win-loss record and your basically your match history. The game reports allows you to expand that in more detail that shows your statistics within that, your different heroes played and different stats on those heroes, length of the game, score lines. You can view the replay within it. And when you really zoom into each hero, you can see more specific stats specific to that hero. Excuse me. And again, in future, they want to. So here it says, in a future update, you will have your recent play matches persist across sessions, meaning even if you log off, you can jump back on and review them at a later time. We'll also introduce a timeline feature to check out key moments from the match and review the final results of the scoreboard. League of Legends actually does something like this right now, where if you want to view a replay in League of Legends, there's actually a timeline scrubber that has all the important moments on there, like when a team fight occurred, who killed who, when a tower was broken, all that kind of stuff, so you can skip to specific areas of the game. In terms of that, and I believe that's something they want to try and implement in Overwatch eventually as well, which is quite interesting because it means they will have to define when and where fights happen to be able to give you an accurate timeline of here is fight number 1, here's fight number 2, so on and so forth, which also is a very interesting thought piece surrounding the Overwatch League, because it means we can potentially get far more detailed stats for Overwatch League, where we can break down a match in specific fights where the game recognizes this is when a fight started, here's when it ended, and here's the various things that happen, which can, my hope is, give you stats like first death, first blood, who is getting first blood, who is getting first kill, first death in those kind of fights, in those situations. How many times is X or Y player winning a 2vx, 3vx, 1vx, turning around and clutching, all those kind of things, and what is the ult exchange and all that kind of thing. Like, we can get into some really granular stuff on the Overwatch League eventually, based on this type of match reporting, just within the game system.
You know what's hilarious? Winston Slap had that in 2016.
Yeah,
exactly that.
Boom, got him.
Yeah. Yep.
Hashtag got him.
I think it's good. While that is true, that Broy and Winston Slap had this
actually
years ago.
Did that one, I think, with the help of Broy back in the day.
Yeah. That said, I think it's best that this is in the client. We have better definitions about what is the thing that we all refer to, right? What is a team fight? How long is a team fight? When does a team fight start? When does a team fight end? That sounds like it's going to be clearly defined for the general user base very, very soon. This also gets back to Yiska's point of having more detailed statistics and being judged against your peers. I think this is just for the best. Should this be thrown in your face every 30 seconds? Probably not. You probably need to go and have some barriers to find this, so that people aren't negatively impacted, I suppose. But I from playing years of games and trying to improve, I think one of the biggest things is reviewing your own gameplay and really seeing and trying to dissolve any kind of bias you have on your own gameplay. And VOD review is an important skill to learn, and the fact that Overwatch 2 plans on implementing that on a pretty detailed scale, I think that's, again, only for the betterment of the player base. So congrats, Overwatch 2 new user. Enjoy your fresh SR, because you are going to be more prepared to earn it. I think it's a good change.
Any further talk on that? I mean, okay, we can go to look at top 500 leaderboards. Those will still be there. Skill decay and competitive, we kind of talked about that already. Competitive rewards, they want to remove, I believe, I think they want to get rid of the icons and the sprays, because apparently that wasn't very, you wouldn't really care about that, supposedly.
That doesn't shock me.
But they want to include limited time. Limited time is probably not accurate. They want to include temporary rewards like titles for rank. When I say temporary, I mean it lasts for the whole season until the new season starts. Or rather, it lasts, you receive it upon the new season starting, you have it for the whole season, and then the new season begins, you lose that title and get whatever new title you get. So I don't know what it is, but it could be something like you finish Grandmaster and your title is Grandmaster Season 3, whatever it is, right? That could, as an example. I completely made that up, but that is hypothetically a possible title reward. Stuff like that. You can still get golden guns.
Yeah.
So that's still a thing. And however, we'll be capping the number of bonus competitive points earned at the end of the season to the highest skill tier you reach in any of your roles, including open queue. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
I really wish there was something or more of a prestigious award for people who have climbed the ladder, right? Not in the League of Legends way where it's just like gold players get like a free like skin at the end of the season or whatever. And again, what boggles my mind, not to get on a complete tangent, but like Blizzard does a lot of really good things across their games, but for whatever reason they don't like pick and choose. I think some of the most successful ways to implement them. I really do believe that like top like yeah, I guess top 5, what is it? Top 500, top 400, top 500 I think it is. Probably should just get like a seasonal skin that like nobody else can get, and you watch people like clamor at that and like chase that like carrot and want to improve. I think it drives players so terribly much that you would see an increase in both Overwatch League content consumption and interaction with statistics and third-party programs to improve their play and also engagement. So yeah, rant over.
Yep.
All right. What's next after that? So we talked about all the. Was there any other Overwatch 2 news? I think we mostly got it. There's been like a show pretty much all on that so far. But to be fair, there was a lot of new stuff. So if we're happy with that,
got some games.
Then we got some games.
Some games.
Some Gamas to play. Who wants? Is it? What? We're not going to cover every single game, so why don't we do this the way we normally do?
Yeah.
Let's just bring up some highlighted matches that people want to kind of talk about here. Ooh. Starting with NA and
me.
Yeah, go. Right? You can go first.
Start from the top, Joe.
Start from the top. What was the top?
Just whatever you want. We're not doing this chronologically.
Yeah. No, I think we rightly pointed out last show that there was going to be some heads turned regarding the Toronto Defiant. You'd looked at their
head turners.
Definitely head turning, not in the good way. Toronto coming off of like a franchise high is difficult to maintain first and foremost. Secondly, it felt like they had hit their mark on the meta. They were overperforming. I think their season highs. They were just catching lightning in a bottle. It was not easy. It was not expected to maintain. So I came into this week with a lot of like hesitation on like how good they would do, and I think they kind of surprised me a little bit with Atlanta. But the loss to New York really kind of like colored my view of how I think the stage is going to go for them, and I think they're probably going to be performing a little bit under their skill floor, their average, I suppose, is a better word. They looked really uncomfortable with certain things, and some of the lessons that I feel like a lot of teams learned in kickoff clash that they feel like they have to be relearning. I don't know. Seems really odd. I think they were a big talking point amongst the community, in how bad or how bad they were performing. And I don't even think it's that bad. I think it's just a shifting of resources, and you probably can get back to like a pretty reasonable degree. When you look at like the New York game, not only did like Flora just have an absolute overperformance, this kid was pounding like a hammer. I don't know, things that pound. But I think specifically, I think a Finale got a little bit of flack regarding like positioning and like, oh, he's just a bad player. I think it's like a targeted coaching decision to see him like be very backline focused with the Reaper. In particular, I think the King's Row is like a big example of this, where it feels like Toronto in general just kind of ignored the New York Excelsior tank player on whatever hero they were playing. And I don't think in a meta where like Winston and Wrecking Ball and Doomfist, you can really feasibly do that. I think you need to kind of keep them in check in some way. Both teams just kind of felt like they were ignoring the front lines of their opponents. And in that scenario where you have your star player in Hisu playing Sombra to like a solid degree, it's one of his heroes for sure. It doesn't shock me when Flora having an incredibly on game, and then Yaki on the other hand, who does a lot with very, very little resources. You go back to their push game against New York and you see him just terrorizing Hisu. It doesn't surprise me that when you base race New York Excelsior, that New York Excelsior kind of get ahead. So I think for Toronto's sake, I'd love to see Finale kind of be on tank duty, and you move Hisu back onto heroes that he's a little bit more comfortable with. Not to say that his Sombra is uncomfortable, but it feels like he has less of an impact than he would on the Ashe, on the Sojourn, on these heroes that do seem like they are in the meta. But for whatever reason, they just don't want to play him. So yeah, I think Toronto did have a little bit of a market correction, but I don't think it's completely like boo-hoo for them.
But they're like, so the meme currently in the community is that they are the perfect 0.500 mid team because they have exactly a 10-10 record. They're exactly 7th place, which is in the middle of NA.
Yeah.
Their map record is even exactly perfectly even, right? So they're literally as mid as possibly mid as you can be.
Yeah.
Which I think is an achievement because that sounds like it's hard to do. So I'm like, holy fuck, if they can do that, it's pretty cool.
No, sure, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Is that where they are power-wise? Do we think they literally are 7th best in NA? Like they're just the exact middle tier, or are they like better than 7th? Here's the other thing. Here's the other thing. You have to be top 6 to make it into playoffs.
True.
As an auto qualifier. Or otherwise, you have to be in play-ins or you get eliminated.
Yeah. It for me, Toronto, just off of their recent performance, I would probably have to say that they're not mid. I'd probably have to say that they're a little bit below mid.
So below 7.
Yeah, I would probably
shit.
say 8. I would not too far below, just like 8, just in terms of like a feeling. I'm not like sitting here judging all the teams out, but just in terms of like from 1 to 13, how do I think of this team? I think they're just a little bit below the average being a mid. Because I think there's like very simple things that you can improve on to like put them back into the conversation, to put them back at being mid or even above average. I think one of those, again, give Hisu the ball. Give him the power to actually make these... Huh?
Sorry, I was just joking about you hating.
Oh.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, I think Toronto has a lot of like power. It's just not directed really, really well.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see Hisu in playmaking positions. I think they need to figure out who their second man is, because I really don't care for Aldo. I think he's kind of just absent for a lot of the game. We saw him on Dorado in that New York Excelsior game. Really wasn't, for my money, all that impactful. I think, unfortunately, and this isn't great analysis, but at the end of the day, when you see somebody like Flora just have like a mind-blowing performance against his like history, you kind of have to just wonder if they played this game out 100 times. Does it look the same way? I would have to say it doesn't. But there again, I do think Toronto probably should be winning those games more often, or rather more cleanly than they are currently. So yeah, I would say that they're a little bit below average currently.
Yeah.
Not by much, though. Not by much.
Yeah. I feel like we're almost prophetic in what we said when we talked about them. And I know like Toronto fans were kind of in disbelief after that type of performance, which is fair.
I mean, it's hard to not be, right? Like you just had a season high in every other sporting like title in the world. That's a metric of success. That's a metric of like omens of, improvement.
Yeah, that's not,
unfortunately, in esports, kids, that's not how things work. I don't know if you've seen some of these patches, but they absolutely gut strategies and they have to relearn how to play the game.
Yeah.
This is a lot of the lessons that we learned in Kickoff Clash. A lot of teams are having to like refresh on. It's not that simple. So as much as I don't like shitting on teams, right? And this isn't me shitting on Toronto Defiant. If anything, like I do think they have potential to actually be a good team. It's just not directed in the right ways, I think, currently.
Mm-hmm.
And that can be just hand waved away with it's week 1. We're still figuring things out. We had some difficult opponents. Again, maybe we slept on New York a little bit in terms of just going into a shootout. Do you want to enter a shootout with a Flora that's actually just hot handsing it and Yaki, right? like Yaki had an absolute like not masterclass. Like what I'm blanking on the term. Like just an absolute like
a diamond
vintage,
class, platinum
vintage,
class.
vintage Yaki performance. Just being an absolute nuisance. Doing so like I think this season I have a hard time. Maybe Venom is another good example, but I think that like Yaki is one of the best low resource tracers like in the game. I think he is an absolute phenom at just being this pesky little annoyance in the backline. And you go and
What happens
rewatch.
when you get to Pocket Kellen?
I mean, yeah, kind of. And it's like you go back and you look at Hisu's POV. You look at like how much his attention's being juggled on push and on Dorado. I would anybody in the world would perform worse when you're playing against somebody of that caliber. I credit to Yaki there. I think he had a great performance. I think Flora had a great performance. I think New York's on the mend a little bit. Granted, it's only week 1. And Toronto has some room to grow. I'll leave it there. But I think, market correction stands. They have to be, bumped down quite a few pegs.
Yeah.
I would have assumed that a Hisu Sombra meta would be really good for the team. And I don't mind them committing to Hotbar. I think that's the right call to make because, like,
agreed.
We are, in my opinion, the meta is heavily shifting towards the off-tank look, especially on Zarya, which is one of Hotbar's good heroes, right?
Yep.
They obviously can play Lucio Mori. Like, as far as hero choices go, they've got no grievances there. So I'm not too sure what's going on in terms of that level difference. Obviously, New York has a very different look because they're playing Kellen. His strength is going to be in the Winston. I, for one, think the Winston is still pretty good as just a general dive hero. And, when you have a Sojin on board and Toronto's not quite playing the Sojin as much, because he didn't play the Sojin one time, did he? He was playing Sombra and Ash, right?
Yes, correct.
Yeah, I mean, like, Sojins can still have that pop-off, and, if Flora does those things, then boom, that's...
And it was a noticeable improvement when Toronto had him on Ash at the end of King's Row. Yes, of course. Like, that is an extremely successful spot for an Ash on defense on King's Row 3rd. But that aside, I think you have figured out what this kid's role is. And yes, his Sombra is very fantastic. But like we said last show, Sombra is kind of a supportive DPS. He is your star player. You have crafted him. Congratulations, Toronto. You have found your franchise player. Put him in the role that he has kind of carved out a niche for himself in, right? Allow him to be your hit scan player. You need to figure out who the second man is in this DPS core, or you can't afford to put him on Sombra. Period. The end.
I think the reason is because they want Finale Reaper. Could be a reason. Finale with the 3-hit of Reaper, Genji, Tracer together.
Yeah.
Whereas I think although they only trust him on the Tracer Genji. Yeah. I don't know. Reaper shouldn't be that hard. Shooty man Reaper, can't be that difficult, but apparently people rate Reaper skill enough that Dallas are willing to put Edison on Genji just because he's got the extra Reaper, and they'd rather have that than Sparkle.
True. Yeah.
Which I'm not saying Dallas are making the wrong call because they're obviously winning, so fuck it, they're probably making the right call. But I'm just saying, like, that's the value that people are putting on, like, hey, how good is your Reaper? Well, we'd rather put you in than the other guy because of that.
And and I think Finale had some questionable decision making, and I think that's a lot of what like Reaper is, but like it is a very particular. What's the saying? When something happens once, it's a coincidence. When it's like twice, it's a something, and then when it's 3 times, it's it's a pattern, right? And you constantly saw Finale diving the backline, ignoring the tanks.
Twice is a habit. 3 times is an addiction.
Sure. Yes. Right. Okay. I'll take that. Finale is addicted.
I just made that up.
I like it though. Finale is addicted at trying to dive the backline and attacking supports and attacking the enemy DPS and just allowing Kellen to just run amok. I don't think you can do that, especially when he is giving Yaki so much of a springboard to just get into that backline, right? You look at, I think it was Aldo on Dorado, like the most bullied I have ever seen a Tracer in my life. Just the most passive. Couldn't get a word in edgewise in any of these discussions, and allowing Yaki just the straightest path into that backline, just to to wreak havoc. So for Toronto, you have subtly one of the best support lines in the game that can make plays. I want to either see that increase, and I need Twilight to get on his high horse and start making some chatty moves, or I need Hisu to get back on his hit scans because Finale can't do it. I don't think Reaper is going to be the pop-off hero you need him to be. We've seen him on Tracer in the past use it, relatively well at busting Doomfists, but that's not necessarily always going to be the case. So either you shift his role around to be a tank buster, or you have to move Hisu back into.
Is that what Reaper's there for? Reaper's there to be a tank buster. That's the whole point.
Yeah, but they don't play him that way. That's what I'm saying. They keep sending him into the back line like an assassin. And I need his role to shift.
That's the final straw. This is KDG's fault, and they need to get rid of him.
The blood needs to be shed. No, like they're so close. Like this team genuinely can be a playoff caliber team. They just need to tweak things. And again, it's week 1. It can happen. That's why I can't just shove them to the bottom. They're just slightly below average with a lot of room to improve and a lot of room to grow into themselves. You put Hisu back on Ashe and Sojourn, and you put Finale, maybe even put Aldo on Sombra, and I guarantee you they have a better performance next week. Who do they play next week?
Okay.
Do we have that?
We can find out.
Toronto. They play Shock and Vancouver. Okay. I'm not gonna lie. If you make some of those changes, I don't think it's a 0-2 week. It might be a 1-1 week with the upside of a 2-0 week. I don't particularly rate Shock right now, and I think Toronto, with a couple of tweaks and some good scrims, I think that match could be a lot closer than people expect it to be.
Yiska, do you have any thoughts on Toronto? Otherwise, I'm moving to the Shock because Joe brought up the Shock, and I'm going to talk about the Shock.
No, I think, generally speaking, I'm kind of, as this week might have revealed to us, I think having one of those Sombra ace players in the league doesn't necessarily mean you win games. So
Bingo, bango.
Yep, correct.
That's unfortunately, I mean, that wasn't the clear pattern that made it.
I think that just proves that Sombra is she's good in the meta, but she's not the position or the hero that defines the game.
No.
And it gets to the point where even Shanghai is like, no, we'd rather have Lip on the Sojin, legitimately. Yeah. And they stopped playing Lip Sombra so they could play Lip Sojin because they believed that Sojin would have a better chance of controlling the game with heavier impact than a Sombra. And I think that's probably true because you're seeing multiple teams with historically star Sombras, kind of just okay. Yeah. Maybe the exception of Fitz. I think Fitz has been doing very well in the Sombra as well, but even then I could see Soul moving away from that also. So let's talk about the Shock. Now, this was a very potentially surprising. No, I'll just say it is a surprising result. Oh, yeah. No one expected Shock to go 0-2 in the same week. I think there was a stat line somebody brought up, how often Shock have gone 0-2 in a single week, and it's abysmally low. As in, they never go 0-2. They always win at least one game per week.
Yeah.
Now, okay, let me address the elephant in the room. Obviously, people are talking about the proper eye injury, etc., etc. I'm not entirely sure what that's all about. I feel like I don't expect players to really go in depth and explain it. If he does have a thing going on, a condition, he's not going to fucking give me the medical term in his doctor's note, is he? But I feel like it's a little bit underbaked in terms of our understanding of what that is, if it even is, and if it even is anything, because we don't know. I'm not saying he's lying either. He might actually legitimately have a problem.
Yeah,
but Shocker it's clearly not a big enough problem that Shocker willing to rest him and that he's going to bench himself for it. So he's still playing, even regardless of that. And also, again, I'm not saying he's lying, but I know there's been teams in the past that definitely say stuff like, even though again I know Proper sitting on the team, but these excuses sometimes come out, and the wrist injury one is a super popular one. Which is why at least I respect that Shocker at least using a different body part. You can't always just rely on the wrist, guys. We're moving on to eyes now. Next, we're gonna get I don't know. I have a
my toes hurt. AVRL.
Yeah, my toes hurt. And we're just moving through all the body parts here. Every team. Shock look like gladiators. Like motherfuckers, they use the wrist one again. Now we can't use the wrist one. Shit. What do we got? We go for the eye. Use the eye one. That's right. No, but on a serious note, I don't know. I feel like we just don't know about it. I'm not willing to say it is or isn't the reason. I'm not willing to say that, it's bullshit. Proper's lying, Shock's lying. I'm not saying that, but I'm also not saying that's Absolutely. It's definitely because of that. Because I'm seeing a lot of other things in the gameplay as well. What I'm seeing is way too much wrecking ball. I talked about this on Play Chatter. I do not think the wrecking ball is good. I think generally speaking, it is a bad hero in this meta, and I'll explain why it's a bad hero in this meta. The reason why is because we are very specifically on a Sombra and a meta. Yeah. Those are two very big heroes in this particular meta right now. I know we just got off talking about like, oh, maybe Sombra isn't like the carry.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. She still shuts down a ball.
That's the carry.
That's fine. She's not good. Maybe she's not a fucking Genji nanoblading, but she'll still screw up a ball's gameplay. She will still make balls life hell. Right? That will happen. And also, here's another thing. People forget in the patch notes, they made it so that green HP now gives you half ult charge. It used to be you can't get any HP ult charge off the green HP. Now you can, half of it. So Ball starts to feed a reasonable amount more ult charge when he pushes his button for the shield, because that's all green HP. So that's actually indirectly a nerf. I don't think it's the biggest nerf. I don't think it's like, ball breaking, pun intended, but it certainly doesn't help the Ball in a meta where two of his biggest counters are in play. And he's just worse than Winston. And Winston already struggles. Winston, I think, is not bad, but Winston struggles because there's also a lot of Reaper in this meta. And Winston also has a bit of a interesting relationship with Sombra as well. So I don't think Sombra's being able to help field definitely don't help a Winston. I mean, it helps if you have it on a Sombra on your team, but against another Sombra, it's really annoying for Winston as well, understandably. Sure. So I feel like Shock are picking some wrong heroes. Hearing some of the other guys talk about it, they weren't super impressed with Sam on the Sombra either.
Sure.
That was brought up as a thing for attention, in terms of brought to my attention, or just brought to attention. Mm-hmm. And I'm a little surprised they're not playing more Kaluj, because as far as I see in the NA meta, and from what I've been told and from what I've seen, NA is mostly D.Va Zarya, and a lot of D.Va. It's a shitload of D.Va. So much so that Dante's even playing the D.Va. So the fact that they're playing a lot of Mikey does surprise me. And you have to consider these are two players that haven't, especially in the Summer Showdown, have barely been into the team. I don't think Sam and Mikey got any game time in Summer Showdown. I think they were literally benched for a whole stage. Yeah. So you're reintroducing two players that have been mostly benched, and playing certain heroes that I personally don't believe in. I think those things all contribute to Shock losing. And then beyond, the final note about it before I pass to you guys is that if Proper is having issues, then this also exposes a lot in the team, because we'd all already had made comments. I believe a lot of punters have made comments about the fact that Proper absolutely carries this team. Not saying that other players are not good, but there's been many situations where if Proper isn't pulling a fuck ton of weight, Shock literally don't get across the line.
Can I jump in there on where he actually
That's all I had to say anyway.
That's
all I had to say, so you go for it.
I think the Shock, I think this in my conspiracy board, I don't remember what show it's from, like the strings all over the place. I think this all makes a whole lot more sense now. And maybe he does have an eye injury. I think you could probably, like, I didn't actually know that context, but like that given to me actually makes more sense. I don't think it excuses some poor performances, some odd hero picks. I think those are rightful criticisms. But what I think the San Francisco Shock of 2022 suffer from the most is a like very suspect neutral game that is hard carried by Proper's opening kills. I think he frags and just smooths over any kind of rigidity they have in approaching neutral fights, in approaching just the neutral, like, how do we approach this? How do we engage? We don't really have to think about that because we have Proper go kill. We can always rely on Proper just going in, pulling a resource, getting a kill, boom. We don't really have to worry about, that's our go. We go in, we have numbers, we have more resources, we can win, we steamroll them, right? And I think that explains a lot of the times, especially on live, in LAN settings, when you don't have a consistency of that, you tend, or for this team rather, you see them maybe having to play from behind. That's the big narrative, right? They drop 0-2 to Washington, they have to climb back, right? Either Proper has to warm up or he has to find and feel comfortable on stage, whatever it might be. And when he is kind of out of his element, maybe he is injured, maybe he has this eye condition, whatever it is, it's going to be harder for him to smooth out the rigidity of it. So you've taken the tablecloth off the table, and you're starting to see the grains in the wood, and you're seeing the cracks, and you're seeing the bumps. Shock have a really hard time making engagements, and you look at that game versus Houston, specifically on King's Row, really passive, hard, kind of rigid ways to approach these fights. Nobody's really going forward. They're kind of just always playing on the back foot. Dante's just like taking all the space away from Kaluj. Yes, is that a Sam issue? Definitely could be. Less low DPS presence. Mikey's on ball. I didn't really care for it either. He also didn't seem to have much of a presence. It doesn't seem like he was synced up with any of the DPS either. So it's like, when you don't have the how to say this, like the insurance policy of proper just like fragging out or pulling resources, yeah, it's gonna be a little rough. Yeah, it's gonna be kind of hard to play. And I go back to Kickoff Clash because, again, I think a lot of the lessons we learned from Kickoff Clash we can apply here. What did Shock do in Game 5 situations in the Kickoff Clash? They went back to the basics, baby. They pulled out the Lucio, they pulled out the Moira, and they had very clear engage tools. I think I'll say this. I think going forward in the Countdown Cup, I think if the Shock are going to succeed with proper possibly being injured, you have to return to basics, and that's going to look really, really strange for some compositions, but it's going to like make the game script very clear for them, and I think that's where they thrive. I think you need I think communication's probably difficult, and you need a clear game script. That's what I'll say.
I'm curious, do you guys think this is a temporary thing for the Shock, or are they like going to have a bad stage? You know what I mean? Like, is this like, yeah, they had a bad week, but Shock are about to bounce back. You know, they're about to play Toronto, watch them clap Toronto, etc., etc. Because I personally feel like there's a couple of tweaks they can do very
for sure.
immediately, and just even within the composition, just change a couple things in their comp, play a bit more Kaluj. I'd like to see them play a bit more Zarya personally, but that's my taste. Sure. As far as I see NA meta goes, they just do different shit, and yeah, I'm just color me surprised that Houston Outlaws with a Dante Diva to beat the Shock.
Yeah,
and this is the other interesting thing as well, is that when you look at Merit and Pelican, you would have thought on paper Merit would be your Sombra player and Pelican would be your Tracer player.
Yeah, given
that Pelican has historically played a lot of Tracer. He played Tracer for Atlanta last year. Merit won in a Sombra meta from O2 Bloods. He played Sombra next to Proper's Tracer last year as well. And yet their roles are swapped. Merit's on Tracer, Pelicans on Sombra. So I found that quite interesting. And yet they made that work. Yeah. Dante made his Diva work. Yeah, I know Dante played Diva about 1 million years ago in the Dark Ages. Okay, before we knew what bronze was. And I'm not talking about the ranking. I'm talking about the material bronze, the middle bronze. Before we knew bronze work and iron, we had some Dante Diva. I do understand, fellas, before the Barbarians took over Rome. Okay, I know my history. But still, he's a DPS player that hasn't played.
Yeah.
This has not been his hero, like, let's be honest. So I'm just surprised that Outlaws beat Shock this handily. I think most people are. Credit to the Shock, though. I mean, they were very surprisingly good. So
yeah. Houston looked like a force. And to the question, like, is this Shock? Like, is this bad omens for Shock? It's hard to say. It's week 1. Yes, they did lose to some like pretty beatable teams that you would just write off. You lose 3-2 to the Justice. That's kind of a gimme for you. And then to Houston,
that was that Washington loss. That one feels owed. That one feels like it's been coming for a while. The amount of times that Justice have taken Shock to 5,
very true,
and not only taken them to 5, but actually had the match point versus Shock and forced them to reverse sweep. Too many fucking times. Yeah. And I had always felt like one of these days, one of these Washington games, they're just going to beat the Shock.
Yep.
Because it's been too damn close. Too many close scrapes of Shock almost losing to the Justice. So I'm like, to me, I'm actually a lot more surprised by the Outlaws win than the Washington win. Because again, to me, we've been queuing up this Justice win for a while. That one's been coming for a while, in my opinion.
Mm.
I was very surprised to not immediately see Outlaws play Dante, also in the first match.
The one with Doge.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you have to kind of do one thing, have it potentially fail, and then for that to be the kick up the butt for you to want to try something else.
Yeah.
Right. That's
Yeah.
how I justify that.
Yeah. Yeah.
What can you do? Doge's on ping.
Yeah.
He's a main tank player, right? I think NA has a bit of a off tank bias at the moment.
I think.
And also, you can't argue with the results. Dante came in and beat the Shark. Like, what else?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Now,
It is
I
what it
think
is.
like if Dante plays against Uprising, I think that match goes very differently.
100%. I couldn't agree more. And looking at the macros for Houston with Dante, I don't know how he feels
Have we
about
moved
this.
into Houston talk now officially? Just for
I don't know.
for
Did
the
anybody
old,
else want to say anything about the Shock?
let's move on to Houston
Before I
talk
do-
officially.
okay.
Then we'll talk about them versus Boston. Go ahead.
I really like that match. Again, we talked about, Boston potentially having, a comeback this stage, and we saw the merit of this team composition. We saw the Punk. We saw him play, well. I think Boston again should be on people's radars, but for Houston in particular, and for Dante, I think you have the writings on the wall for like the new super of the Overwatch League, right? I think Dante
Sorry, who?
moving.
Who
Say
is
that
the new
again?
super? Who is the new super?
I think Dante has what it takes to be the new super. I think he probably
Really?
should be.
What do you mean by that? By the way, you talking about like player skill? You talking about like as a personality? What do you mean specifically?
I think all of it, to be completely honest with you. I think in different ways. Obviously, he's not a Reinhardt player. Obviously, he's not a main tank player. But I think for the Houston Outlaws, a popular franchise.
Are you sure he's not a main tank player? Because that's all he's fucking played this year.
Well, he's played. Yes, he's played tank, but like he's played traditionally off tanks. I think.
Right.
I think the definition's up in the air for Doomfist, but we're looking at him playing Diva now here that he kind of was, cut his teeth in. He's obviously a Western player on a Western franchise, predominantly playing tank for this team that is very popular. He's also a public and very popular figure. I think we have like a new poster child for this league in a position that kind of is a huge focal point. I think moving forward, and again, this is a Dante question at the end of the day, but from my money, I think Dante should be the franchise tank player for the Houston Outlaws. I don't think he's a DPS player.
I don't think he wants to. I think he still wants to play DPS though.
Yeah, that's a career decision on his behalf, but I would love to see him because I do think he has the chops to play tank. I think there's a lot of room for him to play tank in Overwatch 2 and be extremely successful.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you need clear definitions. I think it just depends on what kind of players you amass around him going forward.
Sure.
But it more so than anything else, it just feels like he bends around the team head he has available, right? So yeah, I think like it's basically whatever. But yeah, I think it's just a much better look and has been a much better look the entire season.
All season.
Maybe it's like wrong to just think about Dante as like this guy that was slotted into an unfortunate position and just like recognize that this guy has been playing tank very well all season.
Yes. Yep. And he knows how to coordinate around his team. He knows what his team needs from him on the tank position, right? I don't think you can pay. You give Houston Outlaws infinite money. Haha, I get the joke. I didn't mean it for it to be a joke, but infinite money. Go throw it at space. Go throw it at a Western, tank player, and you try to plug it into the Houston Outlaws, and I think they perform like considerably worse than when they have Dante in. I think as flowery and as ethereal as this is, I do think that he brings intangibles for this group of players. That yes, he molds around them and he fills the gaps and whatever. But like he understands what his team needs from him, and he knows how to play within that system. Junkbuck knows what to do with Dante, right? I think it works beautifully, and I think they have a successful blueprint moving forward, and I don't want them to screw with it. I think this is like they have championship aspirations in front of them if they leave Dante in the tank position. Obviously, it's up to him if he wants to continue playing. I don't want to, pillory him if he wants to play DPS. But I do believe Houston Outlaws look at their best and look at and look, like contenders to the title if Dante is in that starting position.
Let's also bring up one other thing as well, is creatives looked pretty good on this team, on the Ana.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Great.
It is a good meta
to
for
come
creative.
Great start to donning the green and black. Look fantastic. I really have a lot of praise to give Houston. I like their creative looks. I like their both in terms of like the macro and the individual creative. I liked how they tried to put I liked how they tried to give Pelican the ball in the same way that I want to give Hisu the ball on Toronto. They're giving Pelican certain picks on certain points. You go back to the Kings Row attack, he's playing Echo. Why the hell is this kid playing Echo? Because he's extremely good at it, and there's a lot of verticality to get around and try to get picks. Wouldn't be surprised if they try to put him on Genji on certain maps that are very similar in attributes to that one specific point on attack. Yeah, I think Junk's doing a great job. I really, really like this team moving forward. So Houston's big ups for me.
Where are they for you now? Top 3 team?
I mean, I feasibly can't put them there in terms of like a loose power rankings because they lose to Boston. Yeah. But with the Dante look, judging that in a vacuum, I would say they're probably within the top 3, at least top 4. But in terms of going 1-1, beating the Shock, I'd probably put them top 5, top 6, somewhere in there.
Assuming they don't play Dog and they keep playing Dante, they're probably more like a top 3 look. Yep. Yeah, and we'll see how the meta develops as well. I'm not entirely sold on the double flex support look that all these teams are going for.
Sure.
I don't know. We this is one of the metas where we have a very, very distinct look from 2 different regions in terms of their like read on the meta. And 2, I think the untrained eye, you might look at it and be like, what do you mean they're playing the same things? Yes and no. Not yes and not really. Do we want to bring up any more NA teams before we move on to APAC? We also have gone.
I have so many APAC questions.
Pretty deep.
I have all the APAC questions.
Why don't we just cover one more team in NA? I feel like this one is worth covering. I brought it up slightly already, but Dallas Fuel.
Yeah,
we think Dallas Fuel are the best team in NA currently. They are the defending champions from Summer Showdown. Are they also currently the best team?
Yes.
Yeah.
Difficult to say. But probably, yeah.
Or who else could be the best team?
I think for me, they haven't. It's tough to say. I think you can maybe point to Glads, even though I have some very big questions around them as well. I think they're another team with like a X-player go kill mentality, and the neutral could be a little suspect. Dallas, once again, they have a very clear game script on how they want to play their games. Is it a little funny to see Edison on Genji? You bet your sweet ass it is. But it works for them. It's successful. And I think that's probably also, to Justice's credit, I haven't gone through a fine-tooth comb with their games, but I think a lot of the same attributes that Dallas have, I think you could pass on to Justice as well. So I think Dallas are very direct in how they approach fights. And for my money, they would have to be the best team.
I think if they stick to Han Binzari, then they are the best. Yep. My only issue comes in if they start forcing too much Junker Queen in there. I think that's to me a bit of a meme at the moment.
Yeah.
And as far as Glads goes, and this kind of applies to Justice as well, they're both playing too much Doomfist for my liking. I don't think Doomfist is, for the same reasons I don't think Fall is good in this meta, I don't think Doomfist is good in this meta. Too many counters to Doomfist. Yeah. On top of Tracer existing, by the way, it's not just Sombra and Ana. There's a fucking Tracer in there too.
Yep.
That's all I like. All of Doomfist's like worst case scenario, like absolute worst heroes you want to play against are kind of in this meta at the moment. So it does kind of, and also they still haven't given him his slow back.
Yeah.
So he's still just missing a big tool. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like, I mean, let's be clear about something. Dante even played the Doom into Boston and lost. So we can't even, it's not like you can blame the entire series on Do, because Dante actually did play map 1. But yeah, like, look, NA is also playing a lot of Diva. Hanbin can play that. He's obviously one of the best Divas that we've had historically. Doha and Sombra, Fielder, Ana, Chio, Lucio. I mean, these are all the great Dallas Fuel's greatest hits, isn't it? Like, they're all just playing the best heroes. I mean, the only player on a particular hero you might question mark a little bit is Edison. But again, I can explain.
Great at him.
I can explain that pick, that selection of player in the roster simply by saying that Fuel at least to me, this is my perspective or my read of what the field are doing. They rate Edison's Reaper very highly because he is their designated Reaper player.
Correct.
Now, again, as much as I think Reaper's a bit of a meme in terms of like how hard could this hero really be, you know, teams still rate their players on these heroes particularly highly, like so much so that they rate Edison Reaper so highly they would rather have Edison into play the Genji than Sparkle, just because of the flexibility of like, well, we might want Edison to also flex the Reaper in the same map, and therefore because of that alone, they want to play Edison on both Genji and Reaper instead of having Sparkle and Genji, which is a powerful thing to have on a single player if Edison can make the Genji work as well, but just goes to show the priority of Rush's mind in terms of what he believes is important.
Yeah, it's also the case that it's not like Edison is like new to the hero. If you guys remember back when he was on the Reign, he actually benched Erster and during a Genji meta, and like the explanation back then was that Erster is more of a low resource player, while Edison likes taking some.
When was this? What year was this?
Season 3, right?
2020, yeah. That sounds about right. Yeah.
Because I do know that, I can't remember, it might have been season 2 now that I think of it, but I do know there was a period of time when Erster was pretty boomed on the Reign.
Sure.
Like the guy was like self-benching, and he was benching himself on the Reign at one. The timeline to me is a bit messed up because I can't remember when that was.
Sure. But
if it overlaps with what you're saying, then the real reason might just be because Erster's mental boomed and he couldn't play, decided not to play. But if you are correct, and I'm willing to give you a bit of the doubt here, because again I can't remember the timelines exactly, then that could be the case too.
Yeah, and Edison didn't play badly if I recall.
Great.
Right, like, yeah.
Oh, back then I barely can remember that.
Mm-hmm.
Back on the Reign, yeah, that one's a tough one.
I'm not gonna lie to you, 2020 is the season I remember the least.
The plague years,
it was the most forgettable season for me.
I agree.
So hard.
I agree.
I have much stronger memories of season 1, 2, 4, obviously because I casted it, and then obviously 5 as well. But for some reason 3, just like I don't know, that whole year was a mush.
There's just so much going on.
I mean,
the whole year was a black hole for me.
It's like you go from very defined metas to an absolute mumbo jumbo every week is confetti.
That might have been it.
And like you I think we talked about it on Crouch back in the day, right? When we talked about like there is nothing for your mind to hold on to. It's like people play games, in the end, Shock win the second championship. Thank you very much. See you next year. Like that was.
Yeah. So back on track. I personally do think Dallas is the best team because they get to play all their greatest hits. Hanbin's already dominated meta on Zarya previously, so if he stays on that, he's going to have a good time.
Yeah.
Everyone's playing their best heroes. I mean, as far as the meta goes for Fuel, I mean, this is you've kind of hit jackpot here because everyone gets to play everything they want to, and some of them are considered best in class for their heroes as well. So it's like, what more do you want?
I agree. I think for your money, you kind of have to put Dallas ahead. But can I give you 2 names that I think are probably going to be the closest competitors?
K and Assassin.
No.
Okay.
Well, no.
Sorry, go on.
I don't suspect that Shaka is going to get it together to be like in form to be like Dallas's rivals until like the end. Obviously, we don't have another tournament to kind of play through, but just in terms of form, I don't think it's the Shock. I don't think it's the Gladiators currently. And I think it's going to be really hard for it to be the Gladiators if they don't do something like very off meta, if you will. I think they have potential to, but it's very high risk reward. I think for my money, in terms of the meta that has been established or loosely established within week 1, I think the 2 biggest competitors for the Dallas Fuel just running away with this stage are probably Atlanta and Houston. Am I crazy for saying that?
No, I think that sounds about right. Because I'm still a little bit unsure about Rhino and Glads. Again, I feel like they're probably forcing a little too much forcing a little too much Doom at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some question marks about whether they should be playing Space instead because we're in more of an off-tank meta, at least for NA.
Yep.
But I'm willing to agree with those top 3 picks that you've stated. That the closest challenges are definitely Houston and Rain.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Cool.
APAC it is.
The one thing I will say is I
Yeah.
think we should probably expect a pretty big shakeup in not just the meta but also power levels in this week.
In week 2?
Yeah, I think everyone said like this meta is far from figured out, and
oh for sure, yeah.
There's going even like you saw, like some teams like Houston adjusted like between the first and the second game for them, right? So yeah, it's also maybe had been a pretty considerable disadvantage for the Defiant because they were done with both games by Friday. I found that to be interesting. Like I don't think I've seen that pattern before. So yeah.
Say again, who's doing what now?
Like Toronto played on Thursday and then on Friday as well. So the first 2 match days, and then Saturday, Sunday they didn't play at all, right? So
so they had like an extended amount of time to just sit and review and rethink, and
yeah,
for sure.
That, and like they had less time to adjust between match 1 to match 2. If they play the first on Thursday and the last one on Sunday, while they can watch all the other teams play, maybe that also turns out differently. But yeah, I don't know. Like I think we'll probably have to. I expect a pretty big shakeup in some of the power rankings and how they look. But we'll see.
I agree. Could be some big improvements, but we'll have to see.
What are your questions about APAC? Go on.
My questions, my APAC Power Hour. Is our Chengdu the real deal? Obviously, we kind of talked last show about Leave and Jinmu possibly being put, we talk about the Dallas Fuel biggest hits. Is this the Chengdu Hunters, greatest hits? You've got the Jinmu on the Sombra, you've got the Leave on the Tracer. I don't even know if that's exactly how they had the duo kind of paired up. But I'll leave the floor open for you with Chengdu. Like, are they actually like contenders right now?
No.
Chengdu. Are Chengdu contenders? Is that your question? Joe?
No.
Yeah. Hello.
Yes, I think they're contenders.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
You're talking about Chengdu, right? I think they are
Correct.
contenders.
Yes,
Yes.
Chengdu.
They're contenders.
That's the beauty of Chengdu. Like 1 week they look like title contenders. Next week they look like contenders. So I think that they are in for a massive market correction as well.
I have definitely been burned by week 3 Chengdu before. So admittedly, I think I'm willing to, kind of just hold my breath a little bit here.
Okay.
But I currently, based on what I've seen in their first week, yes, I think they are looking fucking fine. Any meta where you can finally put like Leave on his signature Tracer pick,
right?
Jinmu back on a Sombra that he's always classically been very strong on, and
or Farah,
Gaga on Winston, Monk on an Ana. Like, holy fuck, man, you're playing a lot of these players, really strong heroes. Now, APAC has a different read on the meta because they're playing a lot more Winston. They're playing a lot more main tank plays instead of off tank plays. I explained this on Flat Chat as just like a difference in roster construction, because if you look at NA rosters, they have a lot more off tank players on their teams and very few main tank players on their teams. And what main tank players do exist in NA are almost all not almost all. Yeah, a lot of them are kind of benched. They're kind of permanently benched. Guys like Gator, I feel for him, but like Hawk's just playing all the games.
For sure.
And when you have Hawk on the teams, he's not going to be as good on the Ryan and the Winston. It's just not going to happen. And so because you have an entire region dominated by off-tank players, because they're like almost exclusively what exists on the teams, then everyone's going to play Zarya and D.Va. Of course. And the reason why D.Va's getting played is because she's like the off-tank dive hero. Like if you can't play Winston, you're playing D.Va. She's the version of a dive hero for an off-tank hero pool. That's just how it is. What else is different? You have double flex support in NA. If you look at all the NA rosters, a lot of the teams either have 3 supports, 2 of them are flex supports, or they only have 2 supports, but they're both flex support players like Shock, right? And I know they're not the only ones. And it's not surprising to me. Like, it's just not surprising that like NA are heavily in that direction. Whereas you look at the APAC rosters, a lot more main tank players, and most of the support duos are the very standard one main support, one flex support. They don't have a lot of double flex support players on their rosters. Only maybe one or two teams have double flex support options. And that's like teams like Dragons because they have 3 supports and one of them's maybe. So that's where the main differences are. And so like when you look at APAC and you look at like Gaga being in the mix, and there's a lot of Winston being played anyway, yeah, he's doing fine. He's doing extremely well actually. What else? Yeah, I think that's part of the reason why Chengdu's doing well, because everyone's playing some of their best heroes, and they know how to play Winston, Sombra, Tracer, Dive. They built their entire year off that in 2021.
When it comes to another kind of big talking point that we had last show was around Shanghai, and obviously their record, at least the stage, isn't phenomenal. And you kind of loosely touched on it.
What, 0-2?
0-2 is not fantastic, but is it around something in particular regarding, Lip's hero pool? Is it too much Sombra? Is it too little? Is it a second, DPS threat? I think that was one of my big concerns, was because I definitely haven't evaluated Fleta to be like the consistent threat that I think we have seen him be in the past. So for your money, what what's Shanghai's problem? Is it one thing? Is it many things? Is it as simple as that?
It's because Moon doesn't take stage 4 very seriously.
Okay, we're on the sandbag tip.
No. Yeah, look, I break it down to a couple things. One, you do have to look at Fleta. I don't think he's a bad player, but I think he's not as exciting as he was last year, and that's a bit of a problem, because you need 2021 Fleta to come in if you want to have him have an actual starting position on your roster and to win games. Because when you look at other teams and you have Prophet, Fitz, and then you have Stalker on the sidelines who can just pound, like, man, Soul are having their way with you if they can have 2 good DPSs, 2 like extremely good DPS on the field at any given time, and Lip is having to carry extra weight because Fleta is just an okay player at the moment. He needs to. He's a good player, but he needs to pop the fuck off if Dragons will actually want to be a top team. Right. I am at the point where, like, I don't think it's a coincidence that every single meta, every single stage where Who Are You is the starter and just strong Genji meta, Shanghai looked amazing. That is not a coincidence. So and then the metas where Who Are You is not a starter and is not a strong Genji meta, Shanghai look a little bit mid. That's not a coincidence. Another thing is I think Shanghai, and they're not completely figured out in terms of what Lip's playing. Is he on Sombra? Is he on Sojin? Because they started him on Sojin and they abandoned that. They started him on Sombra, now they abandoned that and put him on Sojin instead. And I think it's difficult for them to land on what the actual pick is. And part of the issue is that the answer might be that you have to play both. Maybe you have to play both Sojin and Sombra, but Shanghai can't, because both of those players exist in a single person for their team. Unless Fleta brings out a Sojin, but I don't think the team's willing to do that, and I don't know if it's going to be good enough. You also have a bit of mixing and matching on the support line. They were doing some stuff with Bebe as well, attempting some double flex support. And then they gave up on that in the second game. They were like, no, okay, we're not going to play Bebe. We're not going to play Bebe, and we're not going to play Sombra, is what they said for the second match versus Guangzhou. I would like to see them maybe give Void another shot and play some Zarya. I would like to see them maybe lean more towards what the Dallas Fuel are doing and be like, you know what? We can just spam Zarya here. I don't know if I believe in the Diva, but I do believe in the Zarya. And I do believe that with Piggy kind of showing and lighting the way for APAC as well, and being like, look, we are Guangzhou Charge. We only have 2 off tanks who play exactly the same heroes, who are literally only good on the same 2 heroes. We're just going to spam Zarya. We're just going to one-trick Zarya and make it work. And my goodness, did they just make it work. And they're also a team that also proved that maybe Sombra's not even required in this meta. Just play Sojin. Play Sojin Tracer. Play Sojin Genji. Play Sojin Reaper. And I think Philadelphia Fusion are also banking on the same thing. They're playing they're playing Fury a lot of the times. And Fury's been pounding on the Zarya. He was so good on the Zarya. Holy shit, he was good. That's what you need. I think that's what you need. So I think like for Shanghai, I boil it down to them not really figuring out what their starting lineup is and who's playing what and what that composition is. And also, I think there's maybe a couple positions on the team that are looking a little average compared to the previous year. One of those is Fleta. I'm also I got to be real. I have to call it out. I think Lee Jae-gon's not been as good this year as last year. Truly.
Okay.
So I'm gonna put that out there as well. Yeah, I don't think you can rely on Lip to just get a 3-4K every fight. I don't think Lip can be. You can't just pretend Lip is proper. You can't just put on the proper cosplay.
Right.
I don't think that works for this team.
No.
Agreed there. It definitely sounds like there are a few teams in the league that suffer from the X-player go kill team fight game script. Staying with Shanghai for a second. I think one of the big narratives is that, they start slow, they have to, grow into themselves. Do you have any kind of concern do you have any concern with Shanghai going into the playoffs with potentially a new patch and a huge meta shakeup? Do you think that they could maybe start playoffs a little slow and maybe get upset? Or is that a little too far out?
Bro, if you lose 2 games in playoffs, your season's done. So I mean, at this stage, they better hope Easyaki's a god at Kiriko. And I'm just gonna say it. No matter what happens, they need to force Genji. Fuck it, force that shit. Yeah. I don't care. Is it a Genji meta? No. Who cares? Play it anyway.
Don't care. Who are you?
Make it a Genji meta. Make it a Genji meta. I'm convinced at this stage that Shanghai cannot win without Who Are You. They literally need to ham fist that guy as hard as possible and force him into the lineup. I don't care. It's the only pathway.
Imagine not thinking that Bebe wasn't going to be the best Kiriko in the world. Ace player.
I mean, look, I'm open to it. I don't think it'll happen, but I'm not ruling it out, but I'm also not betting on it.
Yeah, no, for sure. That would be amazing. I know. That's of course not very likely to happen, but yeah, I don't know.
I feel like
yeah,
Bebe would be the worst feeling Kiriko to play against, because he would just hit you with that shit-eating grin every time he assassinates you.
Dude, that shit-eating grin is living rent-free in my head. It's unreal.
We need to see that. Yeah. What were you gonna say? Continue.
No, but I think this is probably just the well-known early in stage Dragon's Fumble. I think they're likely to come back, and also they're also famously one of the only teams that ever have successfully sandbagged. So I'm not too concerned at this point.
But
successfully sandbagged. Oh my goodness.
Oh, another team that's
I hate that that's true.
This also goes for Atlanta as well. Shout outs, Brad. I think another team that to rightfully have sandbagged. I think season 2, stage 4. I think he came out and said we're going to take it kind of light. We're going to focus on playoffs. But I have to assume Shanghai is going to maybe struggle. The last question for me is Aprita have charge fumble Aprita? Should he be playing? What do they need them? I don't know.
The problem is, man, Choisehwan is a monster right now. Every time you're could Aprita be playing? And then you see Choisehwan get player of the match. You're I don't think Aprita can play. Choisehwan's too good.
Yeah.
The problem is hero pool wise, Aprita has to be either a better Sojin than Jimmy or a better Trace than Choisehwan / Genji. And the truth is, he probably just isn't. Jimmy Sojin is actually fucking nasty. And Choisehwan is actually an insane player. Choisehwan is, as much as I hate to say it, way too fucking good for the charge. If any other team gets that player, holy shit.
Yeah.
Can I hit you with a trade? Because I think we've had
trade offer
alert. Woo woo. Bing bong. All right, ready?
What do I get? What do you get?
If you're Coach Moon, you're the Shanghai Dragons, and you go, look,
Lucky?
I got one former MVP
Oh no.
for a future MVP.
No.
Do you trade Fleta for a Choisehwan?
Why would Fleta do that?
I don't
Does
think
it
Charge.
matter? Does he get a say in this?
I don't think Charge let go of Choisehwan like that. I think they keep Choisehwan. He's too good.
Not even if like Shanghai like sweetens the deal and just like greases up that, slides in some extra cash.
I don't know
'Cause I
what
have to-
Charge's priority is. Do they want to win or do they want cash? I actually don't know.
Hard to. I mean, factual.
Presumably,
very, very
this
true.
guy's contract is up this by the end of the season as well, right?
I think Choi's contract is already up at the end of the season. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
So
gonna be a
would be Fleta's.
hot free agency.
because he was probably only on a 1+1.
Yeah.
And all the Shanghai guys are on their third year with Shanghai as well.
Yeah.
So this year's the end of their 3 years with Shanghai, which means most likely their contracts are up.
But you kind of see
So
what I'm
no,
saying.
so
Like,
the answer is no. Trade offer denied.
fair.
Yeah.
Like conceptually, do you kind of like get where I'm going? Like, yeah, if we play within like the reality of like both contracts are ending, Fleta's stock is like possibly at an all-time low. Choi is skyrocketing in terms of a star player. You have a team that's former Overwatch League champions looking for a hyperflex or a potential hyperflex. I don't know if we can call Choi a hyperflex just yet. Maybe you have a better read on that. I feel like he's just destined to go to the Shanghai Dragons. Is that crazy to say? I feel like he's just built. He's just built to be a dragon.
He could go everywhere. I think he could go to Toronto. He could probably. How do you think about this?
I don't hate that move. I think that's actually pretty good. Him and Hisu is a great duo.
Ashok is unlikely. That's not the type of pickup. I think Brad would take him.
Yeah, that checks out.
I think Houston might. They kind of probably have to make up for a Pelican loss, right?
Possibly, yeah.
I think yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of destinations. I also think like Moon talked about people wanting to retire. That my first thought was Fleta's out of here.
For sure.
I also legitimately like if you give me like if I'm charged, why would I want Fleta? Like that's a losing play, I think.
I think you overestimate how big name recognition influences maybe underperforming franchises and sports in general. No, I feel like European football probably has that as well. Like you have a star.
Yeah, but like that guy also like maybe is well spoken or is like actually, marketable. Fleta is like, I put clothes on once a year. Like, come on.
I mean, I think you undersell Fleta's marketability. I don't think he's trying to be marketable. I think the community is just rallied around him as a player and his story and maybe just, his success. I don't know. Hard to say.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that he's pretty popular in terms of a player. AVRL, any weigh in? And do you think, like you said, is Choi really too good? And do you expect him to like really be? Is Choi the proper of the charge? Is he just run around killing people, or is this a team that actually can compete on like a strategic level?
They're every part of their roster kind of got upgraded, so I think they're just doing well.
Okay.
Basically, everyone was like, "Man, imagine Choi with a real team," and then Charge like, "All right, bet," and they gave Choi a real team. So, yeah, I think Charge are doing well. They still need to escape the bottom two, though, or
Sure,
they just need to escape the Valiant. Valiant are trying to catch up, and you just don't want to be last place. APAC is what the deal is. All right, Joe, let's talk about the other Joe team. Spark.
Oh,
Two
no.
new support players.
Yeah, how did that go? But genuinely though, like, did they have anything to kind of stand on, or was this just rough around the edges the entire way through?
They won maps.
I genuinely.
Man, the team is so.
I hate it.
Fucking crazy.
Yeah, I hate that shit so much.
And we talked about this last show. It's like, yeah, I get you have to do it, but it doesn't mean I have to like it, because I know that this shit's gonna happen. Like, it's gonna be another growing pain. it's rough. It's gonna be rough.
Yeah, I could totally see that they play that support line for the rest of the season. Like I said last time, shit sucks so much, dude.
Yeah.
I assume they have some major internal issues, is what I get at.
It feels like it.
I got to assume it. Like, I just think there's no way.
It's stinky.
There's no way they just bin Irony and Superich. And by the way, they put all this effort into getting Irony into China, only for them to just instantly bench him. Like, come on. There's got to be some issues going on in the team, and I feel bad for them because, like, this team year after year, they do well early on. First two stages look good. Stage 3 start to fall apart. Stage 4, they completely shit the bed. I don't know. It's 2 years in a row they've done this. Maybe even 3. I can't remember what happened in 2020 again. That year's a bit of a write-off for me.
Don't think we're
I don't know, like,
particularly good.
Yeah, like Shy and Alfie are still good, I guess.
Yeah.
This team as well might try Burner. I think they've still got options. They might just try Burner Zarya, see how that goes.
Okay.
You know, I'm slowly leaning towards Zarya being the more ideal pick for APAC, even though they want to play at Winston Dive.
Sure.
And it's just and part of the reason I believe that is because Zarya enables Genji, and Genji is like the hero of APAC. Like everybody's got a good Genji, which means you should be incentivized to play more Genji. If you want to unlock Alpha, you got to put him back on Genji. That's my read on that. Valiant beat Fusion, but I think both teams are pretty reasonable. Fusion, obviously, you know, I think they get memed on a little bit here, but they still have some legs within them. I feel like off the back of Fury Zarya, they could probably get some stuff done. Valiant's an interesting case. They have some pieces that genuinely look good. Like even Becky, I think Becky was like kind of memed upon a little bit. But currently, his traces somehow came out and just became nutty. Like, I don't know. I've never seen his tracer this good before. Yiska as well is hitting some crazy good shots as a hit scan player. This guy's impressing me a lot as well. Diego comes out on the Widowmaker, outsnipes him in 3. Holy shit.
It's impressive.
Marvel's in there. And Marvel actually I would say out Sigma'd Fury a little bit. So despite all this complimenting of Fury Zarya, I think Marvel actually played a better Sigma than Fury, which is crazy to say. Marvel is a Sigma player that I spin one of his signatures.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Shout out. Go back to his Soul days, for sure.
Molly's been solid. Like, watching Molly's gameplay, teams try and dive on top of him. Molly takes forever to kill. Right? Your Ana player, your Flex support player, generally their life is forfeit. They all know that. But Molly delays that death so long, and he makes it as painful as possible for those DPS and tanks trying to dive him. He just wastes their time, and he makes it grueling to kill him. And I think that's a mark of a great Flex support player. One where, like, you know your life is forfeit, but you're going down swinging. You're going down swinging hard. And the other team's like, this is taking like 5 to 10 seconds way longer than we need. And this is a real big waste of our time. So, yeah. There's that.
I'm always here for some Molly love. Shout out to Molly.
Molly.
I'm loving hearing that because now I'm excited to go watch some Valiant games. Obviously, not a team that's been on my radar, and I have to pick and choose which games to watch. But no, if you've got really good things to say about the Valiant, I might have to go peruse some VODs for the old blue and yellow.
I don't know if they can keep that up versus better teams, but so far I think they've been reasonable. Actually, you know, we already seen them versus Seoul. Yeah. And I made this comment already. Despite losing, they looked very competitive versus Seoul, despite losing 0-3.
You think they have like a good week next week? Valiant play both Chengdu Hunters and the Hangzhou Spark. Is that a 1-1 or is there potential for 2-0? I think that's
a possible 1-1. I think, okay. There's always room for a 2-0 there because you never know with Chengdu, right?
Sure.
Once you get in the zone, anything can happen.
Very true.
But unless Spark do something massive, they do not look strong at the moment. I would say they look beatable. I would say that Valiant could probably get them there.
Gotcha.
So, hey, Valiant already got 1 win. Why not more? Chengdu legitimately look like the second best team in the region, which is scary.
Oh, so it's like Seoul, Chengdu, Shanghai?
No, you keep moving Shanghai down. It's probably Seoul, Chengdu, Guangzhou at the moment.
Okay. Damn. All right. APAC looking spicy. Really shaking things up. Do you and I feel like again we've said this time and time again on the show with Shanghai. Do you expect them to make some significant changes coming into week 2? It feels like after week 2 is when they really start to get their shit together. Week 2 is always like rough again, right?
Shanghai are in a weird space because they don't actually need to win. Technically speaking, they don't even need to win. They can just choose to lose or just whatever, and they can just, you know, chill. Right. But, you know, I think they probably still want to get some good seeding, so they'll probably try and change some stuff up. The Countdown Cup barely matters to them anyway, like, because we're going to be in a new meta. Like, you can put a lot of attention to Countdown Cup only for that to change when you get to playoffs, so. Right. Cool.
Fair play.
Pick one game you're looking forward to, and we're going to wrap up for next week.
Give me... Since we're in APAC, I'll stay in APAC. Give me Soul Charge. I think if Charge are on this bender, I like Soul. I like Charge. Charge stocks to the moon. Yeah, I'm really interested. That's going to be a big litmus test for me as a light APAC viewer to really see how good Charge are and if they can compete with Soul. Because if Soul's already going like mildly close for Valiant, how big is that delta away in that top 3 power ranking?
Again, when I say close, I mean like it feels close, but the result is still a 3-0.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. Like each match is competitive. It's not like a steamroll. Like Soul had to fight for these wins versus the Valiant. I think like their match versus the Charge is really going to show either how far apart they are or, you know, some cracks, some ways that teams can maybe manipulate them. So I think that's one to keep your eyes on.
I got Shock Atlanta.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Because Atlanta, we've already kind of decided is one of the top teams in NA. Mm-hmm. And Shock are kind of like trying to make a bit of a comeback here. So it will be quite a challenge. And,
you think they win?
You know, who win?
Do you think Atlanta beats them? I think they do. I think Atlanta beats Shock.
It is certainly within striking distance for sure. Depends on what Shock's read into week 2 looks like.
Sure.
As I mentioned, you know, a couple of small tweaks here or there could see the Shock coming back pretty big.
Agreed.
So,
Yiska, you got a game?
It's hard because, like, theoretically, I kind of want to say London Glads, but you don't really know what the bag or like how good both of them are. Where you got an idea how good they are. It's actually Justice Reign.
Just say Dallas, right? Vancouver. Come on, just do it.
No, I think I'm taking Justice Reign just because like they seem to, you know, maybe that one goes to map 5 as well, and then it's like who wins that one. It's also once again like still absolutely miraculous, like what Justice is doing given their situation.
Agreed.
Well, sometimes less is more. Like sometimes having less heroes means more fun, guys. And sometimes
restrictions.
Remember, as you said, Yiska, roster building is just buying tickets. You're just playing RNG. You're playing the full RNG wheel spin. But the more players you have, the more flexible the more spins you get. However, if you have next to no spins and next to no tickets available, but you still luck the fuck out anyway in the meta, then I guess it doesn't matter. Because you get to play Assassin Sombra, you get to play Decay Tracer or Genji, you get to play Kalios on D.Va and Zarya, and well, maybe not the Doomfist. You should probably not do that, but
he's playing Orisa.
And then you can just play Krillin and Opener on whatever heroes. I'm sure they're fine. I'm not going to say they're the best at those heroes, but they're okay. You know,
they're serviceable.
What I'm basically saying is Washington have lucked out in a really good meta, like a reasonable meta for them. So they don't have a lot of tickets, but hey, they chose the right numbers on what little tickets they had.
I also think they're kind of close to direct qualification in terms of their standings, right? Am I wrong? That both Justice and Reign. Yeah, I mean that one's going to be hard.
I don't know.
Well, they make planes no matter what. They definitely make planes. You have to get top 6 here, so they're 3 points behind the Reign, who's currently holding number 6.
Yeah, it's unlikely to be the case.
That one's rough.
Yeah.
But they're probably shoe-ins for play-ins, right? Depending on the playoff meta and
I'll tell you what,
however that playoff patch hits. But
London could lose a spot here. Because if they go 0-2 this week and remain at 15, and teams like Florida and Toronto start winning, oh dear,
Yeah,
London are in trouble. So they got to be careful. London got to be careful here.
Dude, Defiant against Mayhem next week is going to determine a lot here. Sheesh. Okay.
You want to know what my favorite part of the standings is? This part makes no sense, by the way, but it's just really funny. Philadelphia Fusion in 3rd place above the Spark with a negative record.
Yeah.
9-11, 40-42 maps, and a -2 map differential.
Yeah.
But they're above the Spark who have a positive record.
Yes.
I find that so funny. A
League
Philly
points,
with a
baby.
negative record are above.
Yeah.
That is so their identity, though. Is they're such a hot and cold team
Yep.
that, like, at their absolute peaks, they're making deep tournament runs, giving them bonus points. But because they have so low lows as well, they've lost more than the Spark.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they should be below the Spark if we're doing pure, like, wins and losses. But they're above because their peaks are high enough that they've made deep tournament runs. This is just how the Fusion work. I love that.
I agree. That is the most Fusion stat line.
Them. Yeah.
It'd
Right.
be like that.
Then we're done.
I think we are.
264. We out of here. Look forward to next week. Sorry we can do more previews. We spent a very long time on the blog posts. There's some stuff to get on there. That's it.
It'd be how it is.
Good day. See you
Good
next time.
Peace.